Tell them run it up. I wake up. Yeah. I wake up, flex, thumb down now. Check, no drip, this wet. Tell them run it up. No sleep, no rest. Might crash, might wreck. But first I stretch. Tell them run it up. I wake up, flex, thumb down now. Check, no drip, this wet. Tell them run it up. No sleep, no rest. Might crash, might wreck. But first I stretch. Tell them run it up. 9 out of 10 roll through my hands, I'm by my lonely. Turned to a savage, now my baby wants to hold me. I love my fans, don't need no friends, I got my homies.
4 in the morning, you got me up, all cause you need to talk. To 4 in the evening, wanna break up, say that you've had enough. I'm tired of talking, again and again, argue about everything. You are my darling, let's kiss and make up, I know you wanna touch. You call me every night, call me every day, I just wanna get you alone now. Trust me when I say, we gon' be okay, we just gotta boom bada boom ba. I don't wanna fight, you know that I'm right, baby let me talk to your body. We gon' be okay, hear me when I say.
Who told you that you can rise from the morass of your current situation? Who told you that you had to be a slave to the pain of your past? Who told you that you had to settle for mediocrity in this current culture called America? Who told you that you couldn't change your mind? Talk to me. Now's the time for empowerment. And I'm not the Reverend Knight. I'm the coach of clinician.
addicted to you. All of my attention I've been giving to you. Caught up in my feelings, I got feelings for you. Caught up in my feelings, I got feelings for you. On my mind, I can't lie. On my mind, I can't lie. Pull you down till you dry. Pull you down till you dry. All the time, ease my mind. All the time, ease my mind. I know that you're dangerous, I'm addicted to you. I might rent the Lambo and go drive it like it's stolen. I've been living wild, I'm just going through the motions. Stumbling out the Uber, grab my hand, gave me a notion. Swimming in your water, but it feels just like the ocean. I can't lie, I've really been addicted to you. All of my attention I've been giving to you. Caught up in my feelings, I got feelings for you. Caught up in my feelings, I got feelings for you. On my mind, I can't lie. On my mind, I can't lie. Pull you down till you dry. Pull you down till you dry. All the time, he's my
Could it be because of the lack of love, power, fun, freedom, and survival that many men are beginning to travel abroad for love in relationships? William Glasser was a psychoanalytical theorist that more or less posited that needs drive behaviors. But is there a need to be validated in America due to the fact that many men feel that they don't get the love and support that they need? Has the American product become so bad that many men are beginning to travel abroad to find women that more or less personify what their grandparents were or their great-grandparents were in the past? William Glasser also took choice theory and tied it into reality therapy. And because needs drive behaviors, are many men beginning to check out and more or less beginning to look for women in other countries that can more or less accentuate their need for feminine allure as it relates to masculinity. I want you to enjoy this show as I begin to explore the dynamics of William Glasser, but also more importantly, my man Richie from Zoomtothailand. Richie from Zoomtothailand has been buzzing in these YouTube streets here lately as Richie has been talking about the power of Thai women versus Filipino women, but for the most part, he's been talking about going to Thailand. Is it that Southeast Asian women are more or less the greater choice for men that are looking for femininity? Has the American product got to the point that it's no longer suitable for masculine men? Is Richie a product of what William Glasser talked about as it relates to choice theory and reality therapy? Sit back, relax, and enjoy this show as I bring it to you live from the greatest state in the union, the Tar Heel State. And I need you guys to remember this. If it ain't 7, it ain't kosher. If it ain't kosher, it ain't right. Manhood appears to be under attack. And because of that, are men beginning to explore their choices outside of the confines of America? You decide. All right, guys, we're about to start. I'm about to drop some fire for your mind as we're going to be talking about choice theory and why choice theory is so important to male empowerment, but also we're going to be talking about Zoomtothailand or Zoomtothailand. Shout out to my man Richie. Him and I got in contact. I plan to have him on the show at some point. And we're going to be talking about the power of choice as it relates to behavior and also unconscious motivation. Get your pen and paper ready. We're about to have a good show on tonight. Let's do it. We're going to have a good show on tonight. And if you guys have not shared the content, please share the content because we're going to talk about the power of choice as it relates to men being men. Choice is very important, guys, because we live in a world where many men feel they don't have the choice to exude or to more or less talk about the things that have been impacting them in a negative way. And as a clinical therapist, I believe that choice is very important to recovery and wellness. Zoomtothailand is a guide that's offering men choices, as there are many men that will try to shame black men into staying conditioned to accept less. But as men are beginning to come into these spaces, they're beginning to see what their options are. Now listen, guys, I've said before in the past, if you find your uncovered gem here in America, that's your choice. If you find your uncovered gem here in Brazil or in Africa, that's your choice. If you find your uncovered gem in Europe, that's your choice. But the fact remains, guys, is that you have a choice to choose what you want to choose as it relates to relationships. But you have the power to choose the kind of women that you want to help you meet your program and your program expectations. Some of you might be asking, why did I use Wim Glasser? You know, in the past, I worked in law enforcement, I worked with youth. And Wim Glasser's main proponents was that needs drive behaviors. Many men are beginning to travel to Thailand because they feel the need to get femininity. If you are a man that's in this group that feels like there's not enough adequate choices in America, I need you guys to hit 1. If you feel that the choices are not adequate here in America, please hit 1. Because many men are beginning to travel abroad. They feel that they're not getting the outcomes that are vital to them long term, but also to their mental health. But let's get to the point about who Wim Glasser was. Wim Glasser was a contemporary psychoanalytic therapist. And many times in psychoanalytical therapy, it's tied to what's called unconscious motivations. Many times, guys, we're not aware of the things that cause us to do the things that we're doing because it's unconscious. There's a process called repression where we repress things from our past because we don't want to deal with it. But you can never become empowered until you own what's been holding you back in the past. The guy Richie, or Zoomtothailand, and the author name is Richie, he's been exploring paths for men to travel. And, while he's from California, he's currently in Thailand. And Richie, I reached out to him through email. He appears to be a good brother. I look forward to doing collaborations with him in the future, as he was on the Lead Attorney show in the past. And I look forward to doing a collaboration with that good brother because I believe as a clinical therapist, as I said earlier, that men need to have choices. I believe all human beings need to have choices, but here's the problem. Many times in America, many men feel like they're ashamed for their choices. I had a young man or a woman, I don't know what it was, that came in early and said, you guys got to travel abroad to get a woman, or you guys are traveling abroad for sex. And it never fails. Every time men decide to exercise their options, if they're going for sex, that's their business. I don't know. If they're going for travel, they're going for love, that's their choice. They're grown men. But we like to tell grown men what to do with their money, their body, and their choices. And I have a problem with that because that's not empowerment, that's enslavement. But let's get back to Wim Glasser because Wim Glasser was a contemporary of Sigmund Freud. Wim Glasser was a contemporary of Sigmund Freud. And as I said earlier, it's all tied to psychoanalytical therapy. But the theory behind Wim Glasser was choice theory. Men need to have choices due to the pain that they've been through in the past. Men need to have choices due to the pain that they have been through in the past. And once you have the theory of choices, you have something called reality therapy. Reality therapy is tied to, once again, it's tied to needs. There are 5 elements of choice theory, guys. There are 5 elements of choice theory. The first element of choice theory is something called survival. Many men need to survive. They need to have the need to survive in whatever environment that they're in. Survival is not only physical, but survival is also mental. And many men are beginning to travel abroad because they're trying to survive mentally due to the chaos that's happening here in America. I told you that many men are beginning to travel because many men want to be loved and feel like they belong. There are men that are listening to this channel and many feel that they are not loved or they feel like they belong. And that's why there's been a crusade that says, go where you are celebrated instead of being tolerated. I'm going to say it again. Go where you are celebrated instead of being tolerated. Due to the lack of love and belonging and the lack of respect, many men are beginning to travel abroad. Now watch this. There's been a lot of consternation that, when people try to shame men, and we're going to get into it tonight, and they say, oh, the reason why you're traveling because you're weird, you're socially awkward, you can't get a woman, you're lame, you don't have good social skills, and that's all a myth. And the reason why I say it's a myth, because there are some socially awkward men. There are socially awkward men that travel, and there are socially awkward men that don't travel. But I would say by and large, most men that travel are not socially awkward, because you have to have money in order to travel. And if you're socially awkward, many times you're not making money because you're in the basement or playing video games. But see, guys, this shaming language is tied to ignorance many times. It's tied to fear, which is displaced aggression. And also it's tied to the presupposition that you don't have game. Now watch this. Many men are saying, why should I have game for women that are not worthy of my time? Why should I waste my time on modern women when many are not worth my time as a man? And because of that, many men are saying that I'm going to use my time, energy, and resources to focus on myself. If I find my uncovered gem here in America, so be it. If I find my uncovered gem abroad, so be it. But the power is that you all have choice. Every man should have the choice to do what he want to do with his money, time, resource, and also his body. But it appears that anytime black men in America begin to exercise the power of choice, some try to more or less cause them to go back into a shell, which is called repression. Now listen, guys, if you have not donated, donate to the channel. Please donate to Cash App $7 Smalls. If you don't have money, please share the content. Share this content with as many people as you can. To the people that are listening, some of you guys are unsubscribed. Hit the subscribe button. Hit all notifications. Share the content. When you share the content, you can help this channel grow. When you help this channel grow, I can help empower other men. Support the channel, guys, because it's important if we're going to continue to have good content. This show has taken me literally about 6 hours to prepare. And because I love the brotherhood, I need you guys to support me as I support you, because these shows are very time consuming. I bought new equipment recently as well. And you're going to start seeing some major upgrades. But I need you guys to donate and support the channel. Okay? Thank you. But back to point. The question remains, how many men feel like they don't have freedom here in America? How many men feel like anytime they decide to share their story or to share their pain, there are many in their life that the power of freedom, because freedom was tied to choice theory. Some of you are wondering why I don't have the things I want in my life, because you don't have it because you don't have freedom. You have been conditioned to think that you are less than instead of being more than. You have been conditioned to think that you don't deserve a good woman. You have been conditioned that you got to take mediocrity or subpar behavior. And I'm trying to tell you guys, you're not going to find a licensed therapist in this space that's giving you male empowerment the way I'm going to give it to you on tonight. That's why I tell you guys to support the show, because at some point, these gems are going to be going to Patreon. Because as I said earlier, guys, these shows are very time consuming. They're very time consuming. If there are content creators that are listening, they will tell you the same thing. Content creation is extremely time consuming, but I love the brotherhood. But freedom is something that Richie from Zoomtothailand is doing, because it appears that Richie, he himself, has been a victim of dealing with toxic women here in America. It appears that Richie from Zoomtothailand is beginning to travel as well, because he's exploring his options. Shout out to my man, the Ingram Experience, because he talked about something called relationship capitalism. And relationship capitalism is also tied to monetary capitalism, which basically posits that you have the right to do what's best for you. You have the right to exercise your money the way you deem it necessary to exercise your money. You have the right to do what's best for you as it relates to relationships as well, because you guys are the prize catcher. You determine if the woman that comes in your life is worthy of being your woman, because you are the prize catcher. The next stage is fun. When I looked at the brother Richie, when he was on his videos, he looked like he was having fun. William Glasser was a proponent of men having fun or people having fun because fun is a component that's needed as it relates to relationships. But you're not having fun if you're not getting that feminine oscillator. You're not having fun if you're not getting that feminine oscillator. Men are at their best when they get what's called true, raw feminine energy. Not fake femininity, but true, raw femininity, where women are genuine and they genuinely love that man. How many of you men that are listening feel that you have not gotten kosher femininity? Femininity that is fit and proper. Femininity that is genuine. Femininity that seeks to complement the man in a very powerful way. How many of you men that are listening feel that you have not gotten that? If you have, I need you to hit the 1 button. But also, guys, share the content. And like I said earlier, guys, donate to the channel. But let's get back to point. The last stage that Glasser talked about as it relates to choice theory is called power. Glasser talked about power. And power is very important as it relates to having choices. Survival, love and belonging, freedom, fun, and power. How many of you men that are listening have felt powerless when it comes down to dating modern women and modern relationships? How many feel that your good is never good enough? How many feel that every time you try to give your best, it's often minimized? Some of you guys earn $42,000 a year. Some of you guys make 50, but it still feels like it's never enough. And to the people that try to shame these men are beginning to explore their options outside of the confines of the United States. And that's what Glasser talked about as it relates to choice theory. Now, we're going to get into Richie in a few minutes, guys. We're going to talk about it. But while we're getting into it, I'm going to read a couple of these comments because it's very important. It appears that manhood is under attack. Shout out to my man Cortez Smith. Cortez said that it's funny that socially awkward white men can get these same women with ease. Right, LOL. You're correct, brother. Shout out to Alicia Della Rosario. I think that's her name. A woman's cool gent say a woman would never understand what black men go through in America. Right, brother. You're 100% correct. Many don't understand it. Many don't care to understand it. That's why we're having these conversations. Because it's time for men to be empowered. He said many of the women are socially awkward. Shout out to my man Keku Isaac for the $3 super chat. Thank you, brother. I appreciate that. Thank you for the $3 super chat. And we're going to have a conversation, guys. Get the likes up. My man Cool Gent said that being a black man in America is like being in a square box screaming for help when no one can hear you or your pain. Yes, sir. And that's tied back to Glasser as it relates to choice theory. You have the power to choose to continue to be in a state of confusion. You have the power to choose subpar behavior. You have the power to choose to become a subjugate of this modern transit called America. You guys have the power to choose. And that's why I'm trying to empower you on tonight, like William Glasser said. Because when I start my own practice, I'm going to use choice theory and reality therapy. Now watch this. One of the key components of reality therapy is this. You should focus on the present and not the past. When you think about guys that are traveling abroad, the passport bros, they don't worry about the past relationships. Their focus is only on the here and now. Now listen, only a small percentage of men have passports and only a small percentage are actually traveling because traveling is very, 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 very expensive. When men travel to countries like Brazil, those trips can range anywhere from $25,000, I mean not $25,000, but $2,500 to maybe even $3,500 with airfare, food, Airbnb, or whatever. It's very expensive. Travel can be very important. I mean, very expensive. And so to the men that have the power to travel, it's very important, guys, that you get your needs met in a consistent but also in a coherent manner. Never let anyone shame you for world travel. Many will say, well, you know, they're going over there to trick. I had a comment, a person commented earlier. I think Ant-Man 316. I got a comment earlier. They said, you guys are going over there to trick. Well, I'm going to ask them the question. If they are tricking, so what? It's their business. They got to answer to God for that. It's not my job to police grown men, and neither is it your job, and neither is my job to police grown women. I believe that men and women should have the power and the freedom to do what's best for them. If they feel like they're not getting the outcomes here in America, then you do what's best for you. Because the problem is this: many of the women that don't want you to travel, they don't want you anyway. But they want to have you as a beta male orbiter to orbit around them so you can feed that narcissistic supply. So I advocate for men to do what's best for them, just like I advocate for women to do what's best for them. But because my channel is for the empowerment of males, especially black men, I tell the brothers to do what's best for you as it relates to relationships. But Glasser said you focus on the present and not the past. Glasser also said avoid the symptoms that are associated with your pain. Some of you guys have been going through red pill rage. Some of you guys have been more or less conduits of grief. Some of you guys that are listening right now are vacillating between denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. I talked about in the past something called dopamine. Dopamine is tied to the word dopamine because dopamine is tied to love. Love is a feel-good hormone or a feel-good reaction to a person that you love. But many men are beginning to realize that dopamine is just an illusion. They're beginning to realize that many modern women lack the wherewithal to give them the outcomes that they want. And to the men that can travel, like Zoomtothailand, they're beginning to do what's best for them. And I have no problem with that because sometimes in the therapeutic process, you have to uncover in order to recover. And if uncovering means traveling abroad, then so be it. Because as I told you guys, there are 7 steps to male optimization, and world travel is one of them. So to the single men that are listening, this is your time. To the single men that are listening, it's time for you to be empowered. To the single men that are listening, you need to do what's best for you and do it unapologetically masculine. If they try to shame you, like Glasser said, he said, don't worry about the past. Focus on the present. Focus on your paper. Focus on your body. Focus on your mind. Focus on your spirit and your soul. Get the likes up, guys. And then also Glasser said, avoid the symptoms. He said, focus on changing that bad maladaptive behavior. Glasser said, focus on changing that bad maladaptive behavior. Because, guys, choice theory is tied to reality therapy. And the reality is this: marriage rates are plummeting. The reality is this: many modern women are not wife ready. The reality is this: many men are tired of being told what to do. Especially black men in America, because black men were the first mules to come to this country. And we were mules with our sisters at one point. Shout out to the good women that are listening. There are some good sisters that are listening, like Miss Parker, Mika G, Alicia Delasario. Shout out to that sister. There's some good sisters that are listening and they're trying to learn. But watch this. It's a shame in my own anecdotal beliefs that while there are some good sisters that are listening, I think those percentages are very small. I remember a time when the lead attorney gave his own prognostications about quality women in America, and he said he thought it was less than 20%. And I think the lead attorney might be right. I don't think the numbers are so high. That's why I tell men to do what's best for them. There are some uncovered gems that are wife ready and wife worthy. But the problem is we don't know what the percentages are, and many feel that the percentages are very low. Glasser also said, avoid blaming and criticizing others and comparing yourself to others. How many times, men, have you begun to compare yourself to other ethnic groups of men instead of focusing on yourself and focusing on male empowerment. And then also Glasser said, avoid excuses for the behavior that you committed. Some of you guys were unconscious simps. You didn't know it because you were supplementing irrational male patterns. That's what you were doing. You were supplementing irrational male patterns because you were unconscious simps. You allow the behaviors and the conditions that you're in. You didn't demand anything. Instead, you deferred your power as a man. And when you defer power, you don't get the outcomes that you want because women only respect power and strength. Now, we're going to get into it on tonight, guys. And before we get into it, shout out to my man, I believe it's Top Gun. Shout out to him. But I'm going to read a couple of comments. And my man, K. Isaac, said the only receive anything close to that is outside of America. No doubt. And Big Bad Bull said that you always deserve it because you're truly valued and appreciated, and I need you to know when you're in these spaces. No doubt, brother. Shout out to my man, Top Gun, once again. He said, shout out to the Hotep dudes that are brainwashed to shame us to think we make this up. You will awaken the more you spend time in the Manhood Chronicles. No doubt. Thank you, Top Gun, for the $5 super chat. Much love and blessings, brother. We're going to have a powerful discussion on tonight. And once again, guys, share the content, get the likes up, share the content, get the likes up. To the 39 that are listening, if you're not donated, donate to the channel. I appreciate everything you guys have done. Now, once, as I said earlier, guys, I had a conversation through email with my man, Richie, Zoomtothailand. He gave me permission to use his content, and I will be using his content as it relates to male empowerment because it's time for our brothers to be empowered. So I'm going to share a stream, guys. We're going to share a show where Zoomtothailand, I'm going to critique it, okay? Because some of you are wondering why men are beginning to travel abroad. And they're traveling abroad because men are frustrated. So hold tight. And we're going to go to my man's Richie page. Hold tight. And we're going to have a conversation. We're going to have a conversation. All right.
This is your living room.
So this one is in reference to Willie D. And let me explain something to you guys. As you begin to travel, there are going to be many people that are going to try to shame you. Many of them are trying to shame you because they don't have the money to travel. Many try to shame you because they have some type of unconscious pathology that they're not aware of. Many try to shame you because they are losers themselves and they're trolls. And it's okay. Like Glasser said, don't worry about them. Focus on the present, not the past. Avoid the symptoms associated with your pain. Focus on changing the behavior instead of focus on the person or the trigger to that behavior. So once again, shout out to my man, Zoomtothailand, my man, Richie. And this is a response to Willie D. Willie D critiqued this brother. And it's going to happen, guys. But what you got to do, you got to be like a duck with water on its back. You got to let the water just roll off and keep it moving. Because you got one life to live, gents. And at one point, you're going to stand before your creator. If you got the opportunity to live your life on your own terms, I empower you to do it. So let's look at this. I'm going to critique it, and we're going to have a conversation, guys.
What's up, family? She's feminine. She's beautiful.
Hey.
She doesn't nag.
Hey, man. You call? You call me hungry. You hungry? You don't feed the big old legs? You calling? Little Nick waist and the big old leg.
She lets me get my work done. She cooks me breakfast every morning.
That's turkey bacon, right?
She prepares my dinner.
Oh, yeah. Thanks, baby.
She inspires me.
Yo, Adrian!
Damn, sound like a perfect woman. Well, at least that's what this black guy described who went to Thailand to find himself a woman. Who got a problem with it? Anybody got a problem with that?
I'm the Travel OG, and I traded in my Hollywood lifestyle for the sexy beaches of Pattaya, Thailand. we're bringing you exclusive interviews, showing you what the golf courses are like, the caddies are like, what the homies like. Zoom to Thailand with your man Richie Mack, the Travel LG. All right, let's get into it. As a lot of you probably already know, Zoom to Thailand is heating up in the States. In a real way. I'm showing men and women in real time that you don't have to settle. My lifestyle, the way I'm living, what I'm bringing you guys each and every time. It kind of seems hard to believe. The haters think I'm tricking, and I get it. But you're missing the big picture here, dog. In America, this type of life seems too good to be true. Shout out to World Star, shout out to Thrills. Even the OG Willie D had to speak on. Before I get started, I have to give a shout out to all my new subscribers, supporters, and the people that's in the comment section. I can't say it enough. You guys are the ones that keep me going. Salute. Let's hear what Willie D had to say.
One thing that I will give him credit for is that he's not bashing black women. He's not bashing black women. He's not bashing black.
And guys, that's always the qualifier. Anytime men begin to travel and to enjoy themselves, there's a presumption that they don't like black women. And that's no further from the truth. Empowerment is genderless. It's for anyone. But black men always have to qualify themselves because that's the greater assumption. I want you guys to keep listening because it's going to be a good show.
I appreciate that, Willie D.
I would just say just dudes that date outside of their race, black specifically, they got this thing where they like to, talk down on black women. And you got black women that date outside of their race that like to talk down on black men too. He's not bashing black women.
Anybody that grew up in the hood can tell you our first loves are black women. My ex-wife is a black woman. Even though I don't agree with all the extra stress and all of that drama they put on us as a black man, I would never talk down on a black woman in public. Anything beyond that, you need to speak to my lawyer, Kevin Samuel.
What y'all think?
And guys, that goes back to the right of first refusal. Men in general want black women. Most guys, if they could get their uncovered gem here in America, they would settle for a black woman because, as my man Aguapo has always said, that, it's the right to first refusal. Many men want to be with black women. But see, when men begin to share their pain, when men begin to tell their story, many won't listen. Many will minimize their pain because they don't understand the struggle that many black men are dealing with, especially to some of the millennials and the zennial young men that want good, wholesome women. And while there's a percentage, as I said earlier, many feel that percentage is slim to almost impossible due to a myriad of reasons. And so men are beginning to exercise their options, once again, based on choices and dealing with the pain of their past. Keep listening.
Good luck, bad luck.
Now, that's a great question, guys. Okay, what do you think? Am I wrong for living a stress-free, drama-free lifestyle? Should I have stayed in America and just settled for what I could get? Should I accept this modern American woman and their style of behavior in a country that treats us like second-class citizens? Should I feel bad for having a beautiful woman take care of me and wait on me hand and foot without complaining? Or am I fronting for the cameras? Is this some Milli Vanilli publicity stunt?
And the question is no. Richie G and to the guys that are listening should be able to live their life unapologetically. If you work hard, to some of the men that are listening, you guys will work very hard. Some of you brothers have multiple degrees, like myself. If you know anything about going to college, it's very time consuming. It takes a lot of patience. You have to deal with a lot of discrimination sometimes. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of sacrifice. So for a man to reach the apex of his success, why should he settle for mediocrity? I've always said that to the good sisters that are listening, if you want a good man, you got to be willing to compete. Because if every man got married today, there would be 2 million women that wouldn't have a husband on the relationship. Men, you are the prize catchers. And you should determine if the woman in your circle is prize worthy. She can be a prize in her head. But if you don't deem her prize worthy, then she's not the woman for you. Because watch this, your mental health is very important to getting your social needs met. If you're broken mentally, you cannot be the best version of yourself as a man. Keep listening.
I want to hear what you guys think. Drop a line in the comments section and let me and Willie D know what you think. By the way, I'm building my team from the ground up. I'm looking for a reliable and talented social media staff to help make Zoom to Thailand the #1 travel podcast in the world. I'm a one-man band when it comes to this editing, but I can't keep putting out quality episodes and be effective at the social media game. I just want the best person for the job. Serious inquiries only. Please contact us.
And you guys heard what Richie said. He's correct. I'm a licensed therapist. I'm a one-man show. It's very hard to do editing, to also give you guys quality content as I strive to do. It's a lot of work, guys. You heard it from this brother. It's a lot of work. And that's why I need you guys to support the content and share it. Because if you don't share it, then you can't complain about the outcomes as it relates to other brothers that are suffering. So I need the 41 that are listening to share the content, as I said earlier. Keep listening.
At info@zoomtothailand.com.
Well, all right, y'all.
The only reason why I've come this far is because of people like the Lead Attorney, Dante's Boxing Nation, Mediocre Tutorials and Reviews, World Star, Think Smart Financials, and now Willie D Live. Let's hear what else Willie has to say.
Here comes Greg with your organic carrots. He credits sun, good soil, and a little something he just won't.
One thing I know, when Willie D takes that long inhale breath, he's about to go in. I was like, here it comes.
I don't have to sleep with her. I don't have to smell her morning breath. I don't have to worry about her balancing the checkbook. I really don't care who people decide that they want to be in intimate relationships with.
Whew. What you got to love about Willie D is that whether he agrees on your opinion or not, he always calls a ball and a strike a strike.
I don't know why they always try to act like black people all think alike, but we don't.
Willie D's a boxer. Anybody that knows boxing knows it starts with the jab. You set the opponent up with the jab. You lull him to sleep. Then boom, you drop that right hand.
That's it, Tim.
That's what he did here. He also made some good points. Break it down.
I got my own problems. It's very difficult to pair, very difficult to find companionship, somebody that works for you, right? And I just believe that let people do what works for them. On a personal note, I don't think this is going to work out long term.
That is boom. You know what? He's probably right. But me bringing my girl to America defeats the whole purpose of me living in Thailand. Even if I didn't have a girlfriend, why would I want to go back with her and subject her to all that craziness back home? She has a different mindset and a pure heart. To be put in that type of environment, that doesn't make sense to me, Willie D. But let's keep going.
I do believe that this is going to come to an abrupt end.
Yes, it's over. The picture gone.
As soon as those American women get in her ear, it's a wrap. He better keep her in.
And guys, that's the presumption. And guys, once again, that's the sadness. It's a presumption that it's possible that when you bring your bride back to America, some may or might not change. It just depends on the woman, how she was raised, and her dedication to you. But guys, let me share something with you. These shows, even though I do these shows to bring clarity and insight, these shows, for some reason, triggers people to the point that people get mad and unsubscribe, and it's okay. I got to take the hit. If I got to people that's going to unsubscribe because I'm trying to empower black men, then so be it. But many unsubscribe because they don't understand that I'm an advocate for all people. But I'm mostly an advocate for brothers. It would be remiss on me as a therapist if I more or less said that you should settle for mediocrity when you can get your best. That's what relationship capitalism is about, getting your best and getting the best outcomes. So I advocate for men to travel and to live their life on their own terms. Can a woman change if you bring her back to America? It's a myth. Some might, but it's not always the case with all. Many foreign women, many times, are very loyal. But like I said, if you're a simp in America, you're going to be a simp abroad. You have to be a man at all times. And some will try to pollute your woman if you bring her back here. But it just depends on the woman, her character, her upbringing, her family. If she has a very strong family, then the chances of her being contaminated is slim to none. Keep listening.
In the house, lock all the way up, because the moment she come out, it's over. Now, one thing he got going for himself is that she don't have to work.
Exactly. When it comes to the bills and the protection of my woman, I got this. She plays the role of the woman, and I play the role of the man. It works out great.
You go out into corporate America, and it's a whole different ball game. Just like that. Those women started getting in her ear, talking about, what do you mean you have to ask him, can you go on a vacation with the girls? What do you mean you got to ask him, can you go to the club?
That's never gonna happen.
Next thing you know, she starts challenging these things. Because she was like this traditional chick who was, cook, clean, keep the house,
And you guys heard what Willie D said, traditional. And that's what most of the 46 men that are listening are looking for. They're looking for a traditional woman because guess what? Many modern women want men to be traditional while they remain modern. Many modern women want men to be traditional while they remain modern. And most men want traditional conservative women to be their wives. But lo and behold, many times, guys, in scenarios like this, there are some that were trying to get in your woman's ear to sabotage her. And I like what TJ Randolph said. She made some great points. She said, until she came to the light, she said that she would sabotage relationships due to ignorance because she would tell her girlfriend, girl, you don't have to listen to him. And see, guys, that's what happens many times because many times our women and our men are born in very dysfunctional situations. Shout out to TJ for owning up to some of her problems in the past. But back to point, many times we grow up in very dysfunctional and very chaotic environments. And because of that, many times our women become subjects to bad behavior conditioning. Keep listening.
Keep the house in order while he go out and get the money and all that kind of stuff. And it worked for a long time. But I guess, it wasn't enough for her. So, she started switching it up. Next thing you know, Splitsville. And that's what's going to happen. The moment she get around American women, it's over.
See, Willie D? That's where you didn't do your homework. In a normal American situation, you would be absolutely right. From the way it sounds, you think I came to Thailand to import a girlfriend and bring her back to the U.S. No, sir. I'm a man of a certain age, and I've come to learn that nothing lasts forever, especially life. I'm going to let it do what it do till I can't do what it do no more. You dig?
Right now it's working out. There's a whole lot of women in Thailand would take that deal.
There's a lot of men in America that'll take this deal too.
All she got to do is cook. That's it.
Well, to be honest, Willie D, that's not all she does. She also washes and irons and folds my clothes. And remember, I don't ask for any of this. Not one time have I asked her to do this. I did teach her how to make grits, though. Actually, it wasn't me, it was my cousin Kent, who was a grit specialist. Once I found out they had grits out here, it was a wrap.
I don't know how long it's going to last, but one thing I do know is that I very seldom see old couples like that. You might see them young chicks, and they'll be around for a couple of years or so, And then once they get their foot, they get that visa, they get their green card, and they get their foot on solid ground, they start meeting a few friends. Next thing you know, they gone.
Gotta go, gotta go.
So I haven't heard him put down black women or whatever, so I ain't gonna go in on him. But I don't see this working out long term for dudes.
But you know what, guys, what the funny irony is? You got women like Cynthia G and Chris Logic that always put down black men. Some have put black men down to the point that they say that black babies or black male babies should be canceled. But it's funny that anytime black men speak out, we expect it to be what I call doorknobs. And listen, nothing is certain. It can happen that if you bring a woman back, that she could change up. But I think that's a myth for the most part. Can it happen? Yes. But there's another big myth that, they want to, the only reason why they want to come to America, they want a green card. That's a major myth. I told you guys, if a woman has strong natural attraction for you, the likelihood that she'll be loyal when she comes to America is a lot higher than if you were a lame that went abroad and you tried to get a fine woman and you knew that you were a lame, then that woman perhaps might turn on you. But if you're a good-looking guy, for the most part, your odds are a lot higher. And there's always the old trope that, everybody can denigrate black men or just men in general. But anytime black men begin to speak out, to share their story or share their pain, but also just to talk about what they want or what they prefer, it's always a problem. But where are the advocates that speak up for black men? Where are the advocates that speak up for guys that some say are broke, dusty, have a small phallus, don't make a lot of money? Because we always routinely talk about and denigrate our men. But when men begin to say what they want and what they won't tolerate, then all of a sudden, your mama is black. But your daddy is black too. I want you guys to keep listening.
She inspired.
What happened? Oh, Lord, he's cop. Oh, I got the pancakes.
That guy described who went to Thailand to find himself a woman.
Baby, I'm the black guy that went to Thailand. Willie want to know if anybody got a problem with that. You got a problem with that?
I don't know.
But, hey, I wish him well.
Ghetto boys for life on mine.
I would be interested to know what you guys feel about this. Drop a comment, fam.
And as we wind down this episode, you know what I'm about to do. I got the turkey, bacon, and the chicken. Okay.
Okay.
Cocoon cup. Thank you.
Okay,
Cup.
welcome.
No more talk.
Zoom to Thailand, hope you coming too. Richie Mac, travel OG with celebrity interviews. Get your passport, let's go. This is what you need for show. Brothers in Thailand and bikini babes at the beach. If you need more, he got it poppin'. Caddy of the day, we golfing. Really ain't a better option. Time to travel, like, subscribe, and leave a comment. Let's connect. Richie Mac, yeah, we steady vibing. Take a journey, let's get moving, cause we zooming right to Thailand. Hey,
All right. Shout out to my man, Richie G. And I look forward to doing the collaboration with Richie G at some point. But guys, I did that for a reason because, before the show started, there was a troll that popped in. And they tried to shame black men for traveling and living their life on their own terms. It's really sad, guys, that you can't live your life on your own terms. It's really sad that anytime black men begin to say they're going to do what's best for them, some get into their feelings. Shout out to the very mature sisters that are listening, because we need mature women and we need very mature sisters that understand the struggles of black men in America. Black men have to always qualify that they like black women. I don't understand it, because you have the divestment movement, you have swirlers that do what's best for them. They even shame black men. And it doesn't bother me. If a woman a sister want to marry a white man or whatever, that's her business. It doesn't bother me at all. Do what's best for you. But I'm sick of the shaming language as it relates to black men living their lives on their own terms. Men should be able to live their lives on their own terms and do what's best for them. just like all human beings should be able to live their lives on their own terms and do what's best for them without fear of retribution. And so, guys, it goes back to, as I said earlier, the 5 elements: love, survival, love and belonging, fun, and power. And it appears that Richie from Zoomtothailand is having all of those. He's getting all of his needs met because he's began to travel abroad. I'm going to read through some of these comments because, this is very, 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 very important. Shout out to my man, K. Cool Adams. He said, I can't wait to get to Thailand, no doubt. Alonzo Robbins said, Willie is really dissing black women in the entire video, but they would never see it. Mr. Charles said that Willie echoes the black woman's talking points. It's always the men's fault. Black women drop the ball. Black men got to step up and do better. He's a repackaged Derek Jackson. Interesting. Very interesting. Top Gun said that a black man criticizing another black man for being happy. That's not pro-black, and I agree, brother. It's not pro-black or pro-human because people should have the power to live their life on their own terms. Barry Hamilton said that Willie D wants to be the gatekeepers to men's happiness by instilling guilt. Right. That's part of the sign language. Shame, insult, guilt, and the need to be right. But I'm trying to teach you guys to deflect the guilt. Don't let the guilt get to you. Live your life on your own terms because, once again, these kind of shows, for whatever reason, triggers some of our women. I don't know why, because, if a woman want to date another man from another ethnicity, it doesn't bother me at all. I say, do you. Live your life on your own terms. It doesn't bother me when women decide to date abroad. It doesn't bother me at all. Jabril Tariq said that a lot of women in other countries do not want to come to America. No doubt, right, brother? For example, I met people in India who lived in the U.S. and moved back to India. Yes. Yes, brother. You're 100% correct. You're 100% correct, Jabril Tariq. That's a faulty assumption. There's another faulty assumption that they want a green card. And all this tied to shame and language and ignorance and also displaced aggression. I get sick of talking about it. Many times they don't know what they're talking about. They look at the worst case scenario instead of looking at the best possible case that could happen. Everything is possibilities and probabilities, but we got to always look at the odds. Every relationship is different. Ms. Parker back to basics said that's true for many of my patients. She said, when I worked in the pediatrics office, many went back to their homeland. No doubt, sis. Thank you, sister. Thank God we got smart, good sisters like Ms. Parker back to basics. You're 100% correct. You're 100% correct, Ms. Parker, back to basics. Many do want to go back to their native homeland. Top Gun said, Jabril Tariq, that green card talk is his Hotep sign language. Casual Observer said the 80% divorce rate, but warning you about Thai-wise. Right. Right, brother. Right. 80% divorce rate here in America, right, Casual Observer. But they're warning you about Thai-wise. But 80% of most marriages in America in the divorce is initiated by women, and 90% is initiated by educated women. But you're trying to shame men to staying here in America where the cesspool is horrible, where the conditions are horrible, where they can't get the women that they want. It makes no sense. It doesn't make any sense, guys. And that's why I decided to become a therapist, to use models like Wim Glasser that's predicated on choice theory, which is predicated on reality therapy, because the reality is that many men need to do what's best for them in order to get the best outcomes that are relevant for long-term sustainability. Now, guys, if you have not donated, donate to the channel. I don't know if guys are looking at the football game tonight, the Cowboys and the Eagles, but we're going to still have a good conversation before we sign off. But I want to talk about this because this is part of the degreasing of the mind of a man. Degreasing actually means to erase those negative thoughts that are associated with you, but also the word degrease came from Al Grease, and Al Grease is coming out with Frustrated 1, Frustrated 2, and also Frustrated 3. Ms. Parker must be a Cowboy fan. Shout out to her. But yes, but we're going to continue to have a conversation, guys, on tonight. And guys, please donate. Now, watch this, guys. Part of Williams Glasser choice theory is more or less the power to do what's best for you, the freedom to do what's best for you, and also the fun. And Richie D talked about, not Richie D, I said Richie D, Lord have mercy. Richie talked about the difference between Thai women and also women from the Philippines. Now watch this. The Philippines, guys, are part of a group called Negritos. There's an island in the Philippines called the Negritos. Negritos, guys, are a byproduct of African roots and African bloodlines. So we're going to look at another clip by Willie D. Not Willie D. I keep saying Willie D. Richie. And he's going to talk about the differences between Thai and also women from the Philippines. Because, guys, you only live one life. And if you're going to live one life, you should live it on your own terms. If people want to shame you, let them shame you. You know, don't even worry about it. Just laugh at it. It's to the point now it's funny when they try to shame you for living your life on your own terms. Because as a therapist, I tell people they should live their life on their own terms. Maslow talked about the hierarchy of needs, and power and freedom is tied to what's called self-actualization. And you can't self-actualize until you get what's best for you as a man. And so, guys, I believe that men should do what's best for them, and also the women, if they're going to do what's best for them as well. So we're gonna look at this short clip, guys, about Thai women versus the Philippines, and then we're gonna have a powerful discussion. I want the men to come up and let's have a discussion about Willie D. Willie D, world travel, but also my man Richie. Shout out to my man Richie. He's from Cali, and he's talking about men utilizing their options to do what's best for them. All right. So,
amazing quality too.
I just got a package from my favorite denim brands, Mott and Bow.
Richie Mac, the travel OG. I'm Mr. Talkbox, and you're watching Zoom to Thailand. Yeah.
I'm the travel OG, and I traded in my Hollywood lifestyle for the sexy beaches of Pattaya, Thailand. We're bringing you exclusive interviews, showing you what the golf courses are like, the caddies are like, what the homies like. Zoom to Thailand with your man Richie Mac, the travel OG. Well, all right, y'all. Y'all been asking for it, so I'm going to give it to you. Today, we're going to give you the Southeast Asia's version of Versus. Thailand versus the Philippines. I get asked this question all the time. And since I've been to both places, I can confidently give you my opinion based on my own personal experience. Like I said in my other video, both are beautiful places with beautiful people. Thais and Filipinos look strikingly similar. If a Thai and a Filipino woman stand side by side, they would generally not know what race the other one is until they started speaking. I can see slight differences like the eyes. Filipinos have more rounded eyes with Spanish features than Thais. Thai women tend to be slimmer, while Filipino women generally have more natural curves. In this versus battle, we're going to break this down into categories. 1, fun. 2, friendliness. 3, cost of living. 4, food. 5, Wi-Fi. 6, beauty. 7, hospitals and healthcare. 8, retirement. 9, racism. 10, language barrier. 11, walking street. 12, flavor. 13.
And guys, anytime you move to another country, you got to take all of these things into consideration. You got to take all of these things, guys, into consideration anytime you decide to move to another country. Keep listening.
Love and marriage. Now remember, I'm basing these answers on facts and statistics as well as my own personal opinion.
It's all based on preferences, y'all. Some people like pizza, some people like sushi. There's no absolute right or wrong, but this will at least give you an idea of what it's like for a black man living in Southeast Asia for almost 2 years. Make sure you watch to the end of the video because this is part 1. Part 2, we're going to get into love and marriage. This way, in case you're a sucker for love, you don't get lit. I heard someone say, one of the hardest things to fight off is mistaking beauty for virtue. The more beautiful the woman is, the more virtuous we tend to think she is. So let's start with beauty, since we all know that's one of the main reasons we're watching this video. This is who I'm dating currently here in Thailand. She has all the features I like in a woman. Beautiful cinnamon skin, big legs, and a tiny waist. All natural. The only thing she adds to her look is some makeup that accentuate her eyes, but to me, she's beautiful. To someone else, she might be too dark or too light. But the real beauty in her is how she takes care of me. She washes and irons my clothes, she cooks breakfast and dinner for me, and when we eat out, she serves me first. She allows me to be the man and take care of her, and she takes care of me. I don't ask her to do these things, she does it on her own. I'm at an age now where I want to live a stress-free life, no arguing back and forth over stupid things, no unnecessary drama.
And guys, you know, Richie from Zoomtothailand said it perfectly. When you get around 40 to 50, half of your life is over, and you just want peace of mind. Teddy Pendergrass talked about it. And that's what a man deserves once he's pulling the sweat equity of racism, dealing with systemic barriers, dealing with bad relationships. A man has the right to come home to peace and to find a woman that's going to encourage him to be the best version of himself until he leaves this planet called Earth. Every man deserves that, regardless of race. Every man deserves that. Keep listening.
We just live our life every day and have fun. Nice and simple. Don't get me wrong. There's always going to be some little spats here and there, but that's expected. We just got to charge that to the game.
If you want to eat healthy and feel your best, you got to try Kachava. Kachava is the world's.
Now, this is a girl I dated in the Philippines, a fitness instructor. Great personality, beautiful, fun to be around, great family. I suppose if the pandemic...
And guys, everything that Richie is saying goes right back to what William Glasser talked about as it relates to choice theory. He said the 5 elements, once again, are survival, love, belonging, freedom, fun, and power. All that's tied to the power of choice. And that's why I do these shows, guys. Keep listening.
And I was locked in the Philippines, I may have ended up with her. But we used to argue over stupid shit, reminded me of my ex, and that was a complete turnoff. Anything that reminds me of past relationship experiences has me flying in the other direction. Don't get me wrong, I'm sure I'll do exclusive interviews showing the journey along the way. Cue to me entirely different. I can see what you guys are thinking. Next, we're going to talk about the cost of living in both places. But first, let me drop a little this instructor. Great personality, beautiful, fun to be around, great family. I suppose if the pandemic hit and I was locked in the Philippines, I may have ended up with her. But we used to argue over stupid shit, reminded me of my ex, and that was a complete turnoff. Anything that reminds me of past relationship experiences has me flying in the other direction.
And one of the components of reality therapy, guys, is not focusing on the past, but focusing on the present. Don't focus on the past, but focus on the present, as reality therapy is tied to choice theory.
Don't get me wrong, I'm sure a lot of it was my fault, but that wasn't what I was looking for, especially coming out of a bad relationship. So this goes back to my point about personal preference. To me, they're both beautiful, but they both look entirely different. Which one would you choose? Write in the comment section so I can see what you guys are thinking. Next, we're going to talk about the cost of living in both places. But first, let me drop a little montage of people I've captured in my journey along the way. Cue the music. of living. The Philippines wins hands down, and I'll tell you why. $100 in the U.S. is equivalent to 3,276 Thai baht at the time of this video. Not bad. But $100 U.S. in the Philippines is 5,036 pesos. On top of that, the alcohol is cheaper, American food is cheaper, American food in the grocery stores is definitely cheaper in the Philippines. Hotels and rentals are also generally cheaper in the Philippines. However, since the world has forever changed, Thailand's accommodation prices have come down significantly. Also, newer condos in both countries are really small. I think Makati and BGC in the Philippines rival any metropolitan city in the United States as far as beauty goes. But you can find some really nice houses and townhouses for rent in Thailand. For example, what I pay for my place here in Zoomtothailand, I couldn't get a one-bedroom apartment in my hometown of Inglewood, California for this price. And I have a pool. Next category, food. Hands down, this goes to Thailand all damn day. So many different varieties. You have everything from vegan to Burger King. Thai street food is delicious. And their fried chicken rivals a lot of the fried food chickens in the soul food spots back in the States. Although the Philippines has more fast food places, Thailand has more variety. Seafood, Thai food, steakhouses, and even health spots that'll prepare a meal plan for you for the week if you want. Don't get me wrong, I love chicken adobo, but when it comes to food overall, it's not even close. Flavor! I have to give this one to the Philippines. They have the best singers, the best dancers, and the best DJs. A lot of them can sing, dance, and scratch better than a lot of the people at home. DJ Cuber, one of my favorite DJs of all time, is Filipino. Most of the original Jabberwockies are Filipino. Her mom is Filipino. You see where I'm going with this? Thailand also has flavor. Don't get it twisted.
And it's been believed, guys, that some of the people from the Philippines actually have African roots. They're called Negritos, as I said earlier. They can trace their roots back to Africa. But guys, you're seeing what I'm doing with this. You're seeing that everything that Richie talked about is tied to William Glasser's choice theory, but also it's a part of reality therapy to live in the here and now. And that's why these shows are so important as it relates to male empowerment.
Thai hip-hop is huge out here with people like Young Home, your boy TJ, and his hot female named Wonder Frame. I'm going to do a segment about hip-hop in Thailand. Stay tuned for that one. But when it comes to overall flavor, I got to give it to the Philippines. To me, Filipino people are the black people of Asia. Next, Wi-Fi. Hands down, I got to give it to Thailand. Thailand is similar to America when it comes to Wi-Fi, but not quite as good. But they have faster download speeds and a 5G network that wasn't available the last time I was in the Philippines. But if I had to put my money on reliable internet at reliable speeds, Thailand has my vote.
I have lost 25 pounds with Noom.
I've lost 97 pounds with Noom.
I've lost 25.
Friendliness, also known as the people. Even though Thailand is known for the land of smiles and the people are nice, I don't think there's any other country in the world that comes close to the Philippines in terms of friendliness. Filipinos are some of the nicest, friendliest people you'll ever meet. Doesn't matter who you are or who you're from or how much money you have. I was in the Philippines for the Pacquiao fight when he fought Keith Thurman. I was literally in the hood of the Philippines, in a sweaty basketball gym full of people. Even though I was the only black person there, I didn't feel in any way uncomfortable. Let me give an example. When Pacquiao knocked Keith Thurman down, the whole place went crazy. I started jumping up and down and my money fell out on the floor. My wallet, my phone, everything went on the ground. Instead of people trying to get at me and take my money and run, they actually got on the ground and helped me pick it up. This gives you an idea how friendly the people are in the Philippines. Filipino people will go out of their way for you. All they ask in return is that you're nice to them. I met a cool cab driver named Mark. We hit it off immediately. Not only was he my cab driver, But he became my personal driver. He showed me around the city, took me wherever I wanted to go, accepted whatever I paid him at the end of the day, and never complained. The people of the Philippines are unmatched. Hospitals and healthcare. Because I'm from the States, I know that Filipino nurses are some of the best. Being from Los Angeles, just about every Filipino person I've ever met has somebody, knows somebody, or somebody in their family's a nurse. So for me, my initial answer is the Philippines. I've been to Manila, Cebu, Boracay, Bohol, and Palawan. Fortunately, I never had any kind of hospital visits. So I can't say I've experienced personally what the hospitals are like in the Philippines. Since I've been living in Thailand for over a year, I've been to the doctor on regular checkups. What I like about here in the Pattaya and Jomtien area is that there's like 1 million pharmacies, like everywhere. They're not open 24 hours a day like in the States, but they're everywhere. I mean, you can get everything and anything you need at the pharmacy. When you go to the doctor, you don't have to wait 2 or 3 hours like at home. A lot of times you can just walk right in, speak to somebody, and get to whatever it is you need that's bothering you. As far as statistics go, Thailand ranks 13 in the world for the healthcare index, while the Philippines is ranked at number 38. So based on that, we got to give it to Thailand. All right, it's time to get down to the racy stuff. So now we're going to talk about racism. Who has more racism, Thailand or the Philippines? I've been to both countries, spent significant time in both countries, and I have to honestly say, I have not experienced any racism in either of these places. I'm not saying racism doesn't exist. What I'm saying is they don't look at us like the racism in America. To them, we're all foreigners or forangs. Color does not seem to matter. Color's not really an issue.
And to the guys that are listening, to the single brothers that are listening, that's part of choice theory and reality therapy. To get the power and the freedom to live your life on your own terms, but also, guys, survival of the mind, but also love and belonging. Look at the peace on these men's faces that are traveling abroad. These some call expats, in other countries they're called gringos. But look at the peace that's in their face, guys. And to the single men that feel like they don't have what they want here in America, guys, this is an option for you. Keep listening.
As long as you spend your money like everyone else, we are all the same. I'm not even sure if they know what the N-word is. But I have to admit, being black definitely has its perks, because a lot of times they look at us as exotic. Some of them also believe in the stereotypes about black men. One woman told me straight up to my face she didn't want to be with me because she was afraid I was going to break it. Get it? We're bringing you...
Oh, I'm sorry, guys. Hold tight.
She was afraid I was going to break it. Get it? She thought I was going to break her little boy box. Her P to the U, $Y. Her belief is based on the things she heard from friends and saw on adult television. That's why protecting our image is so important, because the same way we're stereotyped for one thing.
And guys, I don't know if that's a good stereotype or a bad stereotype, but sadly, many times in America, some of our brothers are actually shamed for their phallus size. But as you see that, being a man or a man of color in South is actually a perk to the single men that feel like their uncovered gem is not here in America. Because if you can find your uncovered gem from another country, I say go for it, whether it's Afro-Latin, Afro-Asian, African, or whatever. But as you see, black men are actually celebrated in many countries of the world. They're actually loved. And guys, to the single men, that brings great clarity. If you can't find your wife here, you are actually loved and respected in other parts of the world. Keep listening.
We can also be stereotyped the same way in a negative way. She wasn't even down for the get down just for that reason. So would that be considered racist? Not really. Well, all right, y'all. We wind it down. So let's get to the fun category. Now, this is definitely arbitrary. It all depends on what you consider fun. First of all, it's kind of unfair because the Philippines has like 7,000 islands, beautiful beaches, and if you're a backpacker or an adventure seeker, then the Philippines is the way to go. But if you looking to party hard and live out your wildest dreams and fantasies, I got to get after Thailand. They used to have what was called the full moon party, which was basically a big rave that they did once a month. I never got a chance to go, but I always wanted to. From what I heard and what I saw, it was legendary. So for all intents and purposes, I'm gonna make this one a tie. This concludes part 1 of Thailand versus the Philippines. I hope you enjoyed it. In part 2, we're gonna finish covering the categories you really wanna see, like walking street, where's the best place to retire, or just get out the stress of the US for a few months. We're gonna break it down. And of course, what good is it coming halfway around the world without a love or a helpmate? I'm going to give you my opinion on where I think the best place is for you to fall in love or settle down. Or party till your piece falls off. Thailand and the Philippines has something for everybody. Y'all don't want to miss part 2. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And while you're doing what it do, I'm going to be working on the next episode. Peace out, y'all.
All right, guys. Shout out to my man. Richie. He's a cool brother. Shout out to him and trying to empower men to live their lives on their own terms. So, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed that. This is a series that I've decided to be doing. I will be continuing to do as it relates to male empowerment, but also giving men the power to live their lives on their own terms. To the 41 that are watching, guys, please share this content. This is very important for male empowerment. This is very important for male empowerment. As you can tell that I covered all the 5 elements of choice theory. And now you're seeing where I'm going at as it relates to Williams-Glasser theory of psychoanalysis, but also psychoanalytical therapy. Because remember this, guys, many times the things that you're dealing with is tied to what's called unconscious motivations. You're not even aware of it. As part of the unconscious pathology that's called regression is that you feel like you must more or less adhere to standards that don't benefit you as a man. And so I'm an advocate for human empowerment, but I'm mostly an advocate for male empowerment. I believe men should be empowered to live their lives unapologetically, as I said earlier, on their own terms. Now listen, guys, share the content once again. Hit the cash out, but also hit the super stickers. Thank you to all the guys that have given. I appreciate you guys. You guys are awesome. I know the football game is on, so I'm sure numbers are down because of that, but it's all good because the show must go on. I got big plans for this year, but as I said, guys, this show took me at least 5 hours to put together. It's very time-consuming with the thumbnails, with the music. Very time-consuming. But shout out again to Richie. I hope to do a collaboration with him soon. Hopefully he can come on my channel and we can have a show. And we can break down some of the myths and the stereotypes associated with world travel, but also that's associated with men living their lives on their own terms as it relates, guys, to their mental health. So I'm going to, guys, drop the link. I want some of the brothers to come up and let's have a conversation because these shows are important, but also to some of the sisters that would like to come on and add clarity to the conversation as it relates to men traveling abroad and living their lives on their own terms, because it appears that that's what a lot of single men are beginning to do, the ones that have money. They're beginning to live their lives unapologetically. They don't really care what people think. They're going to do what's best for them. And I salute them and I encourage them to do what's best for them. Just like I encourage some of the sisters to do the same thing. Your time on this earth is short. And if you can find a man or a woman that can make you happy and feel like you're being celebrated, go for it. I have no qualms with that because that's the first step to mental healing of the soul, body, mind, and the spirit. So guys, I've dropped the link. Let's have a conversation. Let's have a conversation about Zoomtothailand. That brother has been fired here lately. I remember the brother had about 8,000 subs. He's mushroomed to 42,000. And he's a good brother. I've talked to him once again through email. And also, like I said, the brother's a good brother. So let's have a conversation, guys. The link is dropped. Let's have a conversation about what's going on with men traveling abroad and why the stigma, guys. Why the stigma when men begin to travel abroad and live their lives on their own terms. And so Ms. Parker said earlier, go where you're celebrated and not tolerated. I agree there. You go where you're celebrated instead of being tolerated. So guys, let's have a conversation. What do you think about William Glasser? He was a contemporary of Sigmund Freud. What do you think about choice theory as it relates to reality therapy? Let's have a conversation. My man Chris, what's up, brother? How you doing, sir?
What's good, bro? What's good?
How you doing?
What's good?
No doubt,
Good,
no
man.
doubt. So Chris, listen, let's add clarity to this conversation about William Glasser and the Thai phenomenon, but also, Chris, the incessant shaming language that's associated with men living their lives on their own terms. What are you getting from this whole diatribe, Chris, as it relates to world travel to places like Brazil, but also Thailand and the Philippines? As you saw with your own eyes, Filipinos have African roots and their designs are similar to Africans. So what's your take on it, Chris?
Well, first I want to start from the top and just saying, appreciate you for having me on the channel once again. You know what I mean? Appreciate you helping me out. One of the biggest things, man, like I talked about on my channel as well, when I address this issue with brothers who have so much to say against passport bros, it's just a shame that we'll see brothers in our own community try to be gatekeepers against brothers who are otherwise trying to exercise their own options. You know what I mean? They're trying to figure out what it is that they, want in life, and they're just going for, their own happiness and stuff like that. And just seeing how happy he is, seeing the Philippines, seeing Thailand and stuff like that. I haven't traveled out there to Asia, that part of Asia like that yet, but I definitely plan to. I see that their brother is winning. And it's good to see, that he's, doing what he wants to do. He's out there making moves, and it's great to see that. He's definitely inspired me to look out there and, plan to go visit and see how that is going to go out there. It looks real good. Looks real nice out there. But yeah, man, like I said, it's just a shame that, brothers want to try to come into this gatekeeper, battling to try to see who can tell who what to do. It just, the mentality, man, it's sad to see that that's where it's getting to. But the brother's definitely been a big inspiration, as far as telling other brothers, that travel, hey, man, this is what it's like in the Philippines and Thailand and stuff like that. So, yeah.
Well, it is sad, Chris, because I believe in the power of freedom, similar to what William Glasser talked about in choice theory. And I believe that no man should be silenced for having a choice. And, before this show started, Chris, there was a person that came in and said that, you guys are going abroad, you got to travel all thousands of miles just to be with a woman or whatever. It's funny to me. I actually laugh at it now because I realize that, men going to do what men want to do. They don't care about the shaming language and the laughing. They're going to shame you whether you do good or bad. So I just tell men to live their life on their own terms, their own convictions. Let the trolls and the haters hate. You got one life, and you should live your life on your own purpose and your own freedom, because I do believe that, like other ethnic groups of women compete for their men, I think our women must compete for their men. But the question remains, Chris, that it appears that some don't want to compete for their men. What's your take on that, brother?
I mean, for the women who don't want to compete, it's sad to say, but they're gonna wind up getting left to the wayside. You know what I mean? Like if they choose that they don't want to compete and stuff like that, well, I mean, it's fine. You know what I mean? They don't have to. Nobody's holding a gun to your head telling you what you have to do. But the top men that you say you want and stuff like that, I mean, your time is up. Really, to have your best chances to get those type of dudes, like I said on your earlier show, like after 25, that window for you to really close in on those type of guys is really starts to, that window really starts to get tight. It really starts to close up. So I mean if they care, they should be competing, because other races of women are definitely competing. And
no doubt. I totally agree. Mr. Charles, do me a favor, brother, before you cam up, do you mind showing your face in the back so I can see you, and then I bring you up? If you don't mind, Mr. Charles. I don't think I've met you before, so if you don't mind, you know, I'm not going to bring you on the screen yet, but if I can see you before you cam up, Mr. Charles, I just need to see your face, and then I bring you up. You won't be on the screen. I can see you in the background, okay? So, Mr. Charles, if you don't mind this, let me see your face for a minute. I appreciate it, brother. Hold tight. But go ahead, Chris. Keep talking, brother.
But yeah, and like I said, it's sad to see that we'll have certain brothers in place to try to, you know, we'll more or less say, speak for the black women that it seems like have an issue with brothers traveling. And when you see men who are also on that same line of thinking, like, you know, we see these men as like defenders of the gynocracy, stuff like that. Like his main, like Willie D's main concern was trying to get in here and say like, oh, well, at least he's not saying nothing against black women.
Right.
You know, it's harping on that point. You know, it was just like, bro, like, why is that the only thing? It just was like, he could not attack any other point that the brother Richie was trying to put out. He couldn't attack none of his points. All he could do was take mild disses at him and try to say, oh, well, at least you ain't saying nothing against black women. Like he's basically threatening them like, oh, well, you know, I better not hear you saying nothing against black women, you know, because this is that whole mentality of, oh, well, yeah, you brothers can go do what y'all do, but don't talk about it. What's that about? You know what I'm saying? It's as if to say you're so threatened by men who understand what it is to have a different mindset. And then when they start speaking about it, it's almost like you're in fear that it's going to be this direct attack against y'all. Well, that's not the point. It's about helping and talking to other brothers and letting them know that they do have options. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's the main thing that it's about.
Right. No, I totally agree. Mr. Charles, how you doing, sir?
Hello, how you doing, Mr. Culture Clinician and Mr. Strongheart?
No doubt. How would you like to add clarity to this conversation, brother, and the power and freedom of world travel, but also the shaming language that you begin to see as men and black men begin to exercise their options to travel abroad? What's your clarity on? What's your take on it, brother?
Well, I look at it as being a regular blue collar 9-to-5 man, as the options of probably going overseas would be probably cheaper and probably more beneficial compared to trying to understand this constant evolving dating market in America.
Right.
When I look back at how stuff then changed to where dating, I'm 36, so dating in 2005 to maybe 2012 was different compared to dating in 2012 moving forward because of social media. Now, for some reason, social media has given inflated egos to a lot of women who would probably be satisfied with some of the men, but you know, everybody's a 10, everybody deserves Michael B. Jordan, everybody deserves a millionaire. So that affects a lot of the regular dudes, especially if you're not more of on the attractive side, or you're not more of on the financial well-off side. So you'll be almost lost in the sauce, where you're trying to figure it out. The things are moving forward. Like my parents keep asking me about when I'm going to get married, when I'm going to have kids. I mean, I'm out here, I'm trying to, figure it out just like a lot of the other regular 9-to-5 guys, but
Right.
It's like I've been doing the same thing as far as trying to date regular girls on my level. I'm not trying to date no supermodel, but it just seems like they will only feel like I will only deserve more of the. If pretty much if she's a baby mama, a heavyset baby mama, then they'll feel like I qualify for that. When
Right,
I'm out
right.
here, I'm 36. I made it to 36 with no children.
Right, right.
I just purchased the home, brand new,
Right,
4 bedrooms, and I'm looking to put a woman in here. But it's like if you're an average black man, you can't have no standards. You have to,
Yes, sir.
You have to get whatever black women feel like they want to give you.
Right, right.
And I'm like, so I can't just want a woman who's in shape with no kids and who's just not crazy. That's just too much to ask for.
Right.
It seems like in 2021, 2022. So, and then as far as like Willie D, his channel's pretty much catered to black women. I guess since, he understands that black women are big spenders and they spend more majority of every dollar. And they're the ones that are more easily influenced. So he caters his platform to that because there was one video he was covering where there's a black woman. She was complete wrong. She was in the complete wrong. She must have did something egregious. And he found some way to not blame her and to blame everything else except the black woman because that's what his base core fans are based on. So that's why I really don't take too much of what Willie D says, because what do you expect the average black man to do in America where he can provide food, funds, shelter, and the women on his level are telling him or them that you don't qualify for me, and they're willing to wait till the fourth quarter, 2 minutes left, then they'll say that okay, now you can get into the game after practice squad. I'm you and some of the other content creators are encouraging black men to not sit on the bench and wait forever to get in the game.
No doubt, no doubt. And guys, that's why I need you. I need MC Recovery Wellness. I need this young brother by the name of Delano Music. I need you guys to share the content. When I do these kind of shows, I don't know why, the subscriber numbers drop. It's silly to me because I'm not hating anybody. I just want to see young black men get the best outcomes for their money. My man Ingram called it relationship capitalism. And my heart goes out to you, Mr. Charles, that you got to settle for mediocrity, because here's the kicker. Many times they won't settle for you. If you're overweight, under height, small phallus, if you got kids, if you're broke, they don't want to deal with you. And that goes back to what Chris said earlier about gynocentric thinking. That's the gynocentric culture that's more or less utilized to more or less reduce young men, millennials and zennials and Gen X's ability to get the best outcomes that they want. Why would you settle for something that wouldn't settle for you? I know, guys, there are some women that are 500 pounds, but they won't date a man that's 500 pounds because they think that they are better than you. And I know what you're talking about, young man, because I've heard the same thing when it comes down to, relationships. I've heard the same things, that they see you as average. So what I'm doing, I do these shows to encourage young men to understand that you have a choice, that you don't have to be a slave of your past, that you can avoid the symptoms of your past, that you can avoid the blaming and the criticizing that you're going to get as it relates to your past, and that you need to focus on changing the behaviors that led you to where you're at now, and also avoid the excuse of the behavior that got you in trouble. Therapy is very important, but we said we want mental health therapy. We said we want help. But anytime I try to help black men as it relates to male empowerment, then it's a problem. It's always a problem because, like a lot of brothers feel like the many just want them to be peasants. So hold tight. Let me shout out these super chats. Shout out to my man, MC Recovery Wellness. He said, KC, great work on the occasion, almost finished. The other day I did my first stream, sort of good, no doubt. And shout out to my man, Delano Music. He said, brother, I really appreciate this channel. Thank you, young man. I really appreciate it. Delano Music, how you doing, young man? The first time I ever heard from you, the first time I've seen you, you look very young. You appear to be a zennial. What are you getting from this conversation, brother? And what's your take on the shaming language that's so excessive as it relates to black men living their lives on their own terms, brother?
Yeah. So actually, I'm a millennial. I'm 29 years old. So don't let the face fool you.
Okay. All right. No doubt.
But I want to start by saying I'm not sure if you realize how appreciative I am of this channel. I mean, the fact that you're a therapist addressing this situation,
right?
As far as traveling and black men traveling, that makes the validity of this whole movement, I would say, that much more strong. You know,
No doubt. No, I
truly
appreciate it, man. I appreciate it,
man.
No doubt.
But your question again, please repeat.
Yeah, I was saying, what are you getting from this conversation, and also, you know, what's been some of your struggles as a young man as it relates to dating here in America? What are some of the struggles? A lot of times guys feel like that even for the average guys, that's not good enough. And that's what I talked about. And I don't like that because that's not good for the mental health of so many men. You got guys that make $43,000 and you got some women that feel like that's not good enough. But here's the caveat.
Mm-hmm.
Many want traditional men, but they themselves are not traditional. What do you guys think that a man got 40 or 50 years ago from a traditional woman? I'm going to let you guys answer the question, starting with Chris. Chris, what did a traditional man get 30 to 60 years ago, in your opinion? Give me all the elements that a traditional man got in a woman.
Before I answer the question about what a traditional man got, I do want to piggyback on one thing that Mr. Charles said.
Okay, go ahead, brother.
He was talking about how Willie D has basically built his platform off of, you know, basically catering to black women. This kind of ties into the whole situation that's going on with, you know, another podcast that everybody's just kind of up in arms about right now. Basically their comments that they made about they kicked out, you know what I'm saying? I don't want to say a well-known artist because I didn't even know who she was, but you know what I'm saying?
Right.
You know,
right.
the F&F boys, you know, they kicked off another one, and apparently it was a black female artist. Everybody's up in arms about it. And this is the thing about that dynamic, is just that you see Willie D, he kind of built his platform off the strength of black women and stuff like that.
Right,
but
right.
those boys over there on that side, one thing that they did is that they built their audience differently. So it seems that some people are, we could say that it seems like some black women are a little bit upset because my perception is this: they have the mentality that they quote unquote own black men. Therefore, when they see black men making moves and speaking freely on certain things that they're not used to hearing come from black men, they feel like they have to jump in there as though they own them. And that's one of the things that people are getting off base, and why there's such a heat, like a back and forth going on about this whole thing about they shouldn't be saying what they're saying. Now, I will say that on that point, though, they didn't have to really get in there too deep with the name calling, which you would just kind of like said in jest. But overall, old girl kind of did deserve to get kicked off, and she did see her way out the door eventually. But you know what I mean? I just kind of wanted to make that point because when you build your platform based off of freedom, you don't have to cater yourself and your message to any one particular person. You know what I mean? You don't have to worry about certain groups trying to kick you out or push you out because you've made yourself essentially uncancelable. You know what I mean? So I just wanted to say that to make that point because he touched on it, and then to go deeper into that, that's the value of owning your own and having your own free thought.
Right.
Now, so what men got back in the day, there was more of a peace of mind from what I understand, because obviously I wasn't born back in that time, but men had peace of mind. Men had more of a cohesion with their wives as far as being within the black community. There was more of a unit going on. There was more of a family structure. Even though we were going through some of the, even though we were going through some of the most like roughest times that we can recall, like, you know, Jim Crow and civil rights at some point, you know what I mean, how it all kind of tied in together, we still had an understanding of a family unit. You know, some people could say it was forced, some people could have their opinion about it, but it was there. And over time it kind of fell apart,
right,
which is unfortunate, but that is what, you know, as men, that is what we had. You know, we could go out here and we could go out here and battle the elements, and we could come home to a wife who was more or less understanding. She had no issue cooking. She took care of the house, and she did things like that. Not to say that women weren't working, but they didn't have the mentality of, oh, I'm going to work and I can rival my man and do what he does.
Right.
And then take all his jobs. You know what I'm saying? Because the whole mentality of I don't need no man was not in place at that point. And the thing is, as much as we talk about this, you know, you have these different content creators and all these different channels will discuss this. And the thing is just that women also recognize that as well. But when women who are more on the feminine side will say things like, yeah, but we don't want to go back to that because, you know, it was this patriarchy and you men were so horrible and this and that. So women also recognize that time as well, and they don't want to go back to it. They don't, because they feel as though now they have so much more freedoms.
Right.
That they have,
right.
So now women are not. They understand that time was more family based, and they are choosing not to go back to that. Therefore, this is why so many men who are aware are just saying like, well, fine. There is no table of reconciliation between us. There is nothing that is really needs to be talked about as far as trying to, make it happen and force them to come back to like we talk about. And like I've said before, I'm not in the business of trying to force and make anybody do anything. That's why I exercise my options to the fullest, and I go where I'm wanted versus where I'm tolerated. So that's my take on it.
No doubt. Shout out to my man Dr. Thunder for the $5 super sticker. Thank you, brother. Pay my respects. Let's collaborate again soon. No doubt, brother, we will do that. Much love and blessings to you on 2022 as I seek to empower as many men, young and old, as I can. Shout out to my dear friend Jenny Morena. She said, I support the values of the kosher clinician. Thank you, dear. I would love to hear from you at some point. I would love to hear your perspective as a foreign woman. But I'm going to tell you what guys got years ago. I heard something that Sweet Lulu Bing said, and she's correct, and she's actually on the platform. She talked about, Chris, the power of a diary. And in her country, and in many countries, what men get are wife-ready women that are ready to serve their husbands, but also women that don't have children and women that are virgins. And so you got average men that can't even get that. But that's the norm, Chris. That was the norm in America for many men 40 and 50 years ago that were traditional. Part of being a traditional man was that the traditional man had to bring something to the table to get the woman. What that man got was a woman that was a virgin, a woman that was exclusively sexually his, and he didn't have to deal with social media. But now you got brothers like Delano, we got brothers like Delano Music, brothers like Mr. Charles, that put in the sweat equity, but they can't even find a decent woman. And you got people that are trying to shame them into submission. That's not good for a man's mental health. That's not therapeutic. But Chris, many times in these spaces, people want what's called kumbaya therapy. They want therapy that benefits them instead of empowering these young men. And I have a problem with that because part of choice is having the power to live your life on your own terms. Delano Music, what do you think a man got 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years ago as it relates to having a traditional woman and a wife? What do you think?
Well, my background's a bit different than most. I'm actually from Jamaica. So
Jamaica,
So my culture is a patriarch, as everyone would know. So basically, I've been raised around a traditional family. And for the longest, I left when I was 2 and I was back and forth until 99. So growing up and dealing with other families over here and seeing that, it's a bit different. I could just tell the difference. But the difference, I guess the 60s / right now in my whole household, I mean, there's peace when a man comes home from work after a rough day. There's peace at home. The home is compared to what you would deal with here with a modern American woman, it's kind of hectic. It's a battle, and sometimes demeaning. But it's very weird, man. I've been trying to figure out why it's like that as of late. But throughout my life, I've been traveling, so I was exposed to different cultures, Mexico, Toronto, whatever. And about in 2014, I started traveling to Europe and whatnot. So I got to see other cultures, and it made me realize, because I had a hard time dating in the U.S. for a while, and I realized nobody matched my culture until I left outside the U.S.
Right.
And I'm like, man, no wonder why I had problems dealing with. Like, it's not that I can get a woman here. It's
right.
That's not the issue. The issue is this woman is acting wild. She's too flirtatious, Like, there's no purity, I'm not asking for this girl to be an angel, but my God, be presentable.
Right.
And be presentable. Like, I see girls, I'm 29, but I see girls my age twerking on at a bar, looking like fools. Like, do you really think that's attractive?
Right.
Do you really think that's attractive? My God. So it's just embarrassing, but hey, I travel the world now, and I found peace,
I love that. I love that. You said you traveled the world, and that's part of William Glasser's choice theory as having freedom. You have freedom and you also have power. What does it mean to you, Delano Music, to have the freedom to travel around the world, brother? What does that mean to you?
It means everything. I mean, granted, I've taken 2 years away from traveling, my God, but I'll be headed down to Brazil February 1st. I'll see you guys there. But it's everything, you know? Never mind the woman. You get to meet people, and you know, the media makes certain cities, certain places out to be scum of the earth, you know, just bottom of the pot, scum. And then when you actually meet these people, you get to know, man, people are nice, you know. Not every, and what's beautiful about it too, you never worry about the cops when you leave outside the U.S. That's not a problem at all, not one problem. And I feel as though, I don't want to say this like this, but I feel like the U.S. government has put a blinders over black people in the U.S. to make it seem like they're all hated. When in actuality, that's all people know about the U.S. is black culture. Blues, jazz, LeBron James, Beyonce. I tell people that's what they know about the U.S. and then whoever's the president. That's what they know. We are loved. So
no doubt. No doubt. We black men
subject yourself to something like this in the U.S. so you can go away.
Exactly.
I mean, if you can find your peace, like you have a loving wife and kids, you found your peace.
Right.
But you know, people like us, I mean, my age at this point, Instagram thoughts, I can't stand it anymore, man. It's a
no doubt. No doubt. And guess what, brother? You don't have to settle for mediocrity.
No.
Lulu Bean, how would you like to add clarity to this conversation, dear? And why so many men are beginning to exercise their options in dealing with women from foreign countries, like your country in South Africa, like in Thailand, Brazil, and from the diaspora, the African diaspora, or where else? Because I think what many don't understand is this, Lulu Bean. Many men, these young men are saying that they want women here in America. They want uncovered gems that are good women. Some will say, oh, you just a lame and you can't find them. There are plenty of good women here. What's your take on that? Because I think there are some good sisters, but I think the pickings are very slim. What's your take on this, sister?
Hi, Kosher.
How you doing, dear? What's going on?
Happy New Year. Can you guys hear me? I've been having issues.
Yes, ma'am. I can hear you.
Kosher, I don't know if I'm going to give my comment so much as I think I'm actually asking you this time. So I heard the gentleman, I'm so sorry, I don't know his name, and he was talking, I'd like you to actually listen to those two clowns. They're called Fresh and Fit. And what I see from them is what I would call preferential prejudice. But like I said, I'd like your take on it. I don't know if I might be biased, and I'm open to being corrected.
Sure.
So this is a Caribbean man, according to you guys. He's a Caribbean man. I don't know where he's from. And it's a Sudanese man. Barbados, and it's a Sudanese man. And they used very derogatory terms towards Black people, saying they don't deal with the dog meat. It was derogatory.
Right.
For me, there's a thin line between preference and prejudice.
Right. I agree with that.
But if you are going to say, I come from a very pro-Black background. My mother was in the ANC. My mother was an activist. That's why I'm saying that they might be a bias, which I am open to. That's why I'm saying I'm open to correction. But my I don't want to make this racial, but in terms of what the brother was saying, there's clearly an issue in the Black community. Not just here, you know that it's sort of filtering through, but there's an issue with the Black community where the Black man has been depedestalized and has to be put back.
No doubt.
And the respect and the I call it godhood, because I believe that the man is a representation of God. He's the spiritual head of the family.
Yes, ma'am.
He's the leader of the family, and that's
Yes.
where we need to get the black man back to.
Yes, ma'am. I agree.
Regardless, if we're going to get anything right, we're going to need our men to do certain things. And if it's to chastise us, if it's to tell us we're wrong, but now for you to sit there and say you don't deal in dark meat, for you to insult black women and tell them they're shaqueenas. I mean, this country is full of history. You guys were talking right now about jazz, about it's not just jazz and music. African Americans are so much more than that.
Right.
In terms of technology, I mean, people haven't even begun to scratch the surface and don't know what Black Americans have given the Black world. When we talk about Black Americans, people don't seem to go further than, you know, a Beyonce and a LeBron James. There's so much more to black people, especially Black Americans. Mm-hmm. And people don't even know the intrinsic history of Black Americans and don't understand. For me, like I said, maybe it's me, it's my pro-Blackness, but I believe spiritually. I believe you guys are the Israelites. I believe when I'm reading about the Bible, I'm reading about being taken out and being enslaved. That's your story. Mm-hmm. That's what I believe.
Right.
So for someone who's African and who's Caribbean, to in order for you to justify your preference for white women, you now have to come and label Black American women as shaqueenas, as ratchet, as this, as that. If you have decided that you're going to prefer white women, go. But don't justify that by degrading Black women on your way out. Right. Go do what you have to do over there. But once you've stepped out and you've decided that you don't want to deal with a Black woman, then and you're not the solution anymore, especially when you're insulting us on your way out. Mm-hmm. You are not the solution anymore. You've got nothing to contribute. Mm-hmm. And you've got ADOS, you've got so many movements right now in America that feel that Caribbeans and African Blacks look down on Americans because of idiots like that.
Right.
Who are further dividing the Black diaspora, the Black community. Those two have, I mean, it's a person who can only get the very white woman that he says he has a preference for, both of them. The only way they can get those women is by going on an app and paying them. They can't even get a woman by the strength of being a man because they're not men. So as you can see, I'm very heated about it. I have no issue.
Fire for your mind.
I have absolutely no issue with who you decide to like. But you're not going to be a Black woman that's going to downgrade a Black man. Be responsible for your choices. If you decided to date a Pookie and a Ray Ray, that says more about you than the person that you decided. And then these are men that go out of their way to go get OnlyFans. They go and get women that sell their bodies. So how are you now going to come back and talk about women in relationships when you go out of your way to get women that take their clothes off for a living? What does that say about you and the men that are watching? The men that are watching your show. Why is Kevin Samuel? Why are you? Why is Steph is cold? Why is Alpha Male Strategies? Why are all these men able to have conversations without bringing women and kicking them off the show? Without dealing with people of low standards and kicking them off the show? Those two can't help. I mean, there are so many. Those two cannot hold a conversation, like I said, without downgrading Black women. And there are a lot of Black men and Black women on both sides that have stereotyped each other, that have done a lot of damage to the relationship of the Black man and the Black woman. And you don't want people like that.
I totally agree. Give me a minute, Chris. Give me 1 minute. I'm gonna let you get it. But you know what? You make some very good points. But someone made the question, Mr. Albert said, have you heard about what the divestment movement called Black men? While it's fresh and fit, I agree with you. I didn't hear everything. Sounds like they did teeter on racism and prejudice towards
self-hate.
Self-hate, right. Here's the difference. Fresh and Fit are part of the diaspora, but they're not ADOS Black. They're not. They're part of the diaspora, but they're not ADOS. I think Fresh is from Sudan and Fit is from Barbados, like Chris said. But also, I don't know if you heard of Cynthia G, Sweet Lulu Bean, and Chris Logic. they're very nasty and negative towards black men. They also talk about, actually they take it further than Fresh and Fit. Some even talk about canceling black babies. All black babies that are males need to be canceled. And so, you know, but we don't have an outrage and an outcry. What Fresh and Fit did was wrong. I don't endorse what they said. They should have the right to have their preference. But the problem is you have more erroneous women like Chris Logic and Cynthia G that are spewing hatred way worse than Fresh and Fit, but no one never says anything about it. Are you familiar with those ladies, Sweet Lulu Bean?
I am, and they're on the same level as those two clowns, the Cynthia G's, and I don't even like. But what I'm trying to say is, for whether it's a Cynthia G or a Fresh and Fit, it's the same side of a different coin, where you have the Cynthia G's that have decided that to stereotype black men, and then uplift whites and it's weird because doesn't Cynthia G have a baby with a black man? Doesn't she have a black baby?
She did. Right, she did.
So it's just like these two twits on this side who are black and it's a Sudanese. He had to be asked twice, "Are you black?"
Wow.
Twice. Oh well, I guess I am because my parents are Sudanese.
Wow.
So what I'm trying, they self-hate, and that's why I was saying that there is a lot of damage when it comes to the black relationship on both sides. And the manosphere is a direct result of the upside down that black women have. And it's people like you, people like the manosphere is rectifying that. Men are standing up and saying, I'm not going to protect you. I'm not going to look after you. I'm not going to provide for you. And then you come and you offer me nothing just by virtue of having a vagina between you and being black.
Right.
So that the answer to that,
right.
Black women are going to learn. Black women are going to learn because you're talking about traveling. You're telling black women in this country that we're not going to deal with you because there's quality outside there.
Yes, ma'am.
But you're not insulting your sisters. You're talking about the behavior of your sisters.
Yes, ma'am.
You're not talking about the race of your sisters. You're not putting your race down on the way out, and you're still choosing to deal with your race, and you're still choosing to try and correct the situation. Mm-hmm. Whereas these people have divested. Like I said, I am happy when a black woman and a black man divest because we don't need your quality. We don't need you. Go. But like I said, on your way out, don't insult our brothers and our sisters if you've chosen not to deal with them. You are not part of the solution. You can't say anything. That's to the Cynthia G's and anybody else. Right.
There are really two forms of divestment. If there's a form of divestment due to self-hatred, I agree with you, Sweet Lulu Bean. But if men are divesting like the Mr. Charles and the Delano Muses because they can't get the kind of women they want here in America, this young brother, Mr. Charles, said he's a more than average man, but you got subpar women with kids by other men, probably multiple men, and they still think that Mr. Charles is not enough. This young man got a good job, got a house. He wants a good wife. You're from South Africa. Tell Mr. Charles about the quality of women that he can get from your country in South Africa, Sweet Little Bean.
In terms of South Africa, it is because, like I said, that there's still culture. You know, we have an identity. We still have our tribes and our language. There's still traditional values there. So you will have a woman that cooks. You will have a woman that cleans, and you will have a woman that wants a man that is going to lead, that wants a man who is going to be in control, because you can trust him as a man. You know what his role is. And I think I've said to you, a lot of times that part of the thing here is women don't understand what the role of a man is. And when a man is asking for what he should rightfully be asking for from a woman, it's controlling, it's archaic. And like I said, that goes back to you don't know what your role is as a woman.
Right, I agree.
You don't know if you're not going to take instruction, if you are not going to, from your man, If you are not going to respect, and that's what submission is. Submission is take instruction and respect your man. Submission isn't he is going to abuse you, he is going to misuse you, or any of those things. And if that does happen, like I say, take responsibility for the choices that you have made.
I totally agree. I totally agree, sis. I totally agree. Chris, you were about to say something. Add clarity, brother. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I want to go ahead and tackle the issue of FNF. You know what I mean? In regards to FNF, I really don't feel like these guys are the models that young brothers should be looking up to, first of all. Okay, so what they said as far as in terms of, speaking about, like a colorism type of situation that might be going on. I mean, because first, if we look at it, like Myron, he's from Sudan. All right. Fresh, he's from Barbados. Check it out. They're both black. Some people want to go about, oh, Myron's half Arab and this and that. Sudan does not denounce. It does not, denounce a race necessarily or a skin tone. You can be from different parts of Africa and have all different somewhat of mixtures. But if you're black coming from a country within Africa, if you have predominantly African features, hello, guess what? You're black. You know what I mean? So let's go ahead and kill all that noise. Now then, as far as them being ADOS, or as far as them being a part of, the ADOS culture, they're kind of in it, you know what I'm saying? Kind of not. But if we're going to talk about as far as like all, black people trying to be under one umbrella of, just because this person's ADOS, Caribbean, all these other things, that is something that would have to be worked on between those different individual subcultures, if you understand where I'm going with that. Okay. So like if you're a Caribbean, as Caribbeans, y'all kind of like get together and say, hey, what can we do to not make it seem as though we're separate from ADOS, or not do certain things that are going to fall back on the other ADOS brothers, if that's how we're going to look at it. Because either y'all going to say that, hey, I'm black because we hear the stories about how people will be from the Caribbean and be like, don't call me black. I'm Puerto Rican. Don't call me black. I'm Jamaican. You'll hear these different things where it's just like, bro, but are you, you know what I mean? Like, we accept you, but are you trying to do certain things that separate you and pulls us further away from us? Right. What's the mindset? I will say that they didn't necessarily have to go as far as trying to call them bonquishas and quiches and all this other stuff, because of how they try to somewhat separate themselves, or it seems that way.
We don't deal with the dark meat. We don't like darkies.
Darkness and stuff like that. I can understand it. You're like, all right, well, okay, bro, like,
and that's a dark-skinned brother saying that nonsense.
Yeah, it is. You know what I'm saying? And so a little bit of that can be looked at as, okay, why did you have to do all that? But we do have the counter to that, which is the other side. Not that it's necessarily better, but these are the things that we see in the community that we have to work on. Because if you look at what's going on, we have Cynthia G's and stuff like this who have said some outlandish things. Like, I've seen artwork where they have black men hanging from trees and all kind of outrageous and outlandish stuff. You know what I mean? The thing is that I have not seen, black men advocate violence against black women. That's what I have not seen. And that to me is a very big difference. I'm not saying that what they said is right, correct. Like I said, these guys are not the guys that someone should be looking up to as far as a young brother looking at their model of how they're doing. They're moving their thing in a completely different lane. They're going a completely different direction. So, of course, they were a little out of line with having to go with the whole racial kind of like making it seem like it was a colorism thing. All right. But I'll say this, that we have not seen men, especially in spaces like this, or any space, go at women in some type of violent or say or advocate violence against women. And I want to say that is a defining factor that we have to understand, is that, listen here, we're going to have to understand where these brothers, they're just out there. They're doing their thing. They're doing their thing. They have their audience, and they're advocating, because when they use terms like Knight Rider and stuff like that, we know that's not some stuff that black folks say. All right, first and foremost, we know that's some stuff that black folks say. But a point I want to make is that they're not advocating violence. And when they put out that one girl, what's her name, China Doll, when they put her out, she was out of pocket as far as in terms of the show's construction. Myron was trying to do his thing on the mic and organize his show. She was acting out of pocket because she kept saying different things in the background, the sidebars. He had to tell her more than once, a couple times, "Hey, I'm gonna need you to calm down with that." And then we had old boy, her producer in the background, was trying to say, "No, she ain't going nowhere." So it was kind of like an underlying conflict was starting to roll, and they had to kind of detour and get off that. All right. So there are different things going on at play. Like I said, they're not a good model for how we should try to look and act and say, "Oh, look what they did," and we shouldn't do that, because their whole entire model is not in the context of being like politically correct in terms of what we should be structuring or modeling ourselves after, or trying to say, "Look at us as black folks, we shouldn't be doing that." Let me tell you, Myron and Walter, okay, just don't even try to regard them as people that we need to keep inside of the fold, because they've already kind of showed who they are. They've already kind of separated themselves. When they had support from Myron, when they had support from Kevin, they had support from O'Shea, and they decided that, no, we're gonna go our own way. They started speaking out against Kevin and all these other dudes and said, "No, we're gonna do it our way." And they kind of like they don't really have respect or regard for like anybody. So like I said, I understand the outrage, and yeah, it seems like there's some underlying issues going on where y'all trying to placate to other races as far as the terms you use. Like, we understand that was out of line, but they have not said anything violent. I don't recommend that any men start to speak out against violence, because I feel like as men, we shouldn't be doing that. But at the same time, there is a whole lot of underlying nonsense to where we can cut the fresher fits out. We can also cut the Cynthia G's out as well. We cut the bad fruit from the tree and we let them fall. It is what it is to me at the end of the day, because I don't want to go back and forth for who was worse and who did that. It's all toxic, to be honest, at the end of the day. So I was going to do a video on it, but I think I'm going to let it ride. But for the most part, I'll just go ahead and tie a knot on it and just say, yeah, it's kind of bad on both sides, and I don't want to kind of equate it or anything. But I'll just say, as black men, we have not heard violence come from black men to advocate that we need to start being violent toward black women.
Right, right. And that's the major difference between the Chris Logics and the Cynthia G's. They don't take it. Fresh and Fit are clowns, but they didn't take it to that level. They're not advocating for the canceling of black male babies and none of that. But Chris, I want to address something, because many times people say black. What people mean by black is this. They mean a descendant of African origin. Many times in America, when people say like Dominicans or Puerto Ricans or Brazilians, or they say I'm not black, well, really they're correct and they're right. And hear me, they're right to affirm their national origin first. So like Sweet Lula Beans, obviously she's a woman of African heritage. But if somebody say, well, you're black, well, they're gonna look at you and say, well, what do you mean I'm black? I'm South African, or I'm Brazilian, or I'm Dominican. They have a right to affirm their African, their national origin first. But in America, because black people were seen as second-class citizens, they were never seen as Americans. They were seen as black, something that you can't measure, because black is vague. They should have been seen as Americans of the African diaspora. That's a term that I created. Americans of the African diaspora, because we all are Americans first of the African diaspora, because our bloodline traces to the vast continent of Africa. Mine goes from Nigeria to Ghana, to Cameroon, Congo, to Mali. I even think Senegal. And then, the rest is 5% white, Brit, and German, which is weird. But about 94% West African. But yes, ma'am, go ahead.
Let me ask you something. I've never heard a so-called Caucasian say, I am a half Italian and I'm half Spaniard. And you know that there's a lot of admixture to Italians and half Spaniards.
Right.
And that's why. So what I'm trying to say is the creation of the manosphere with certain people. For me, it would be you, it would be Kevin Samuels, and Steph is called, for me as a young man, and how he explains the female nature, is the people like you in the manosphere. It's not just this is what's wrong with black women. It's teaching men to be men.
Right.
It's teaching men about their role. It's helping men understand what's been done to them psychologically.
Right. Yes.
By being in the way, it's understanding our history.
Right.
So when people diminish and minimize the manosphere to just what Cynthia, it's so much bigger than what Cynthia G is. I've been following the manosphere all the way from South Africa from the very, very beginning, and I didn't think that it was going to be what it is now. It's grown. People like Cynthia G have a specific subset of women that aren't even in your lane, wouldn't even be able to. I mean, really, would you look at Cynthia? Would any of you, with your intellect, would you even look at Cynthia G?
No,
No,
I wouldn't even look
you
at
wouldn't.
Right.
That's what I'm trying to say. So people need to understand the value. They need to understand the power, and the men in the manosphere need to understand what the mission is. It's got nothing to do with the Cynthia G's. You guys are past that. You guys are going on planes. You guys are thinking about business. You guys are like I said, it's a spiritual and it's a psychological journey. It's way beyond that.
Mm-hmm. No, I totally agree, sis. You know, and that's why I encourage guys like Mr. Charles, but also Delano Music, to live their life on their own terms. Yaziz, how you doing, brother? It's been a while. How would you like to add clarity to this conversation, brother?
No, all is well, Kosher. This is a very powerful discussion.
Thank you, brother.
You know, yeah, and just like Lulu Bean has said that, you know, these things, the things that we deal with, especially that deals with our women and who we are as men, you know, a lot of these psychological issues are spiritual.
Right.
You know, because the things that deal with the psychology is not the things that are tangible, but it's the intangible things that affect our tangible world and the results and outcomes that we're actually getting. And you know, the reality is that if you know, the manosphere has an angle to resolve this issue by presenting statistics, presenting facts, presenting the positions of men, and defuncting the feminist ideal that we as men we even believed it until we were told almost 30% of men are virgins, 60% of men are without child and unwed, 80% of women are the ones that cause divorces. These things we didn't know about. Mm-hmm. So we also were subjects to romantic ideas, gentleman ideas, and then we also took the blame for failures because we thought that it was a man thing to do, to say, oh, we're the ones that's wrong, when in reality, we weren't. Right. In reality, we were being scarred the entire time. So it's like when the manosphere comes up and it starts to, and we're starting to wake up, we're actually looking at ourselves and saying, hey, we need a reparation. We need to repair ourselves. But we have to look at the truth of the matter in order to know what our position is. And that's what a lot of men have done in the manosphere. And speaking about these two guys, you know, they represent Black men, because when you look at them on face, it doesn't matter where they're from in the world, they represent Black men. So when they do things in a disrespectful manner, to a certain extent, it actually kind of like backfires on us, because we're the ones that's supposed to uphold the morals and standards. We're supposed to hold not only ourselves, but the rest of the world and women. If we want to correct the women, we have to have standards of how we respond to things. We have to have standards of how we project ourselves, not go to a point of saying, hey, we understand we don't like the feminist ideal that's in the Black woman, right? But we have daughters in this world that we want to raise correctly so they can find the men that we say that we are. We want our daughters to find these men. You understand where I'm coming from? Right. So when you have men who say they represent the manosphere, but then they can say they reject Black women, night riders, dark, whatever, it goes beyond whether it's an American, the feminist ideal. It goes beyond the idea that we're challenging. It now goes into it can affect other generations of men for them to say, oh, Black is a problem all the way across the board. And the problem is not Black. The problem is not just Black women, because like you said, Kosher, there's Afro-Asian, there's Afro-Latina, there's African women. Those are Black women across the world. Right. So you can't reject Blackness. You can't reject Blackness. You can reject the idea that Western Black women are taken on and they're coming at us trying to reduce our standards. You understand where I'm coming from?
Right. I totally get it.
Yes.
Right.
So,
and the crazy thing is, brother, you know, the brother, I can't think of his name. Fresh is from Sudan, where most Sudanese are blue-black. So
That's
you know,
right.
it's weird that he say he don't like the darkies, where he's from a country where they're descendants of what's called the Cushitic people, or the people from the Nile. And so how can you call people darkies, but your bloodline is from Sudan, where Sudanese are actually, when you say black, Sudanese are literally black. They're literally black like the speaker. Some Sudanese are as black as the speaker.
Yep.
And that's where they get the word black from, based on color. But hold tight, Mr. Charles wanted to add some question, add some insight. Go ahead, Mr. Charles, brother. Go ahead.
Yes, I wanted to weigh in what the previous guy was just saying. The manosphere did try to assist the fresh and fit cult like following to expose and to show them to Myron and Fresh for who they really are. But there's only so much that the manosphere and everybody else who tried to show them for what they really represent, but for some reason that their following still wants to support them and just wants to believe in the idea of what Fresh and Fit represents. Now, when it comes to me, I like whoever I'm following, I like to make sure that they are who they say they are. I don't need to follow a character or somebody who's posing for or like playing a role in a movie. I actually like to see the person who actually was actually portraying that real life event type of stuff. So, but like I said, it's up to the men who are who's following the Fresh and Fit podcast to want to follow the truth, and they made their decision. Now, as far as like the people in the manosphere, we have to just not want to stand in to be on a hamster wheel running in place. This is why getting your passport, let's just say for the year of 2022, a passport is like anywhere from $170 to $200.
Right.
So whenever I guess, you know, for the 9-to-5 brothers who would get their vacation, what would it hurt to pay, I don't know, however much it costs to go to one of these other countries, let's say Africa or the Dominican Republic? It can't really cost that much. If you enroll in some classes to learn how to speak some kind of Spanish, that shouldn't cost that much either, compared to still doing the same thing in America and then coming up short, you know, again for a whole nother year. So I'm sure pretty much less than maybe $1,000 to maybe $1,500, you can learn a whole new experience, and if one country is not up to your liking, there's plenty of other countries. I'm from Haiti. And one of the other points y'all guys were covering, when I was younger, I did see, well, I didn't understand what I was seeing. When I used to see women be taking off the man of the household shoes and putting Epsom salt in the water and rubbing his feet and making his plate, to me, I thought that was like almost degrading to a woman, not knowing that they from my country, this is what women are conditioned to do, right, for their man who's paying the bills and who's the head of household.
Right.
So now that I'm older and I'm just like, wow, I thought that she was almost like being held captive and doing that stuff and not being and being held against her will. When I was realized this is what she was conditioned and raised to do, and this is how a proper household is ran, instead of the woman is going to work and the man is going to work. They both people are going to work full time, and then they're barely never seeing each other and never being able to remain a tight union, because both people cannot go work 40 to 80 hours a week and then come home and be able to build a solid relationship at the same time.
Well, watch this, Mr. Charles. Here's the myth. Listen, we live in a time in a world where inflation has made it to the point where both men and women have to work. So the person must ask themselves the question is this, to the women that are single, do you want a marriage or do you want to stay single? Ideally, it's good that a woman can stay home while the man work. If that can happen, so be it. But here's the difference. There are many women from other countries, and I'm sure Sweet Little Bean can attest to it. They still work outside of the home. They still work extremely hard, and they still are very feminine and love their husband because they come into the marriage with the mindset of duty and service instead of seeing themselves as a slave. So many say that I can't rest in my femininity unless I have a job, unless my husband pay all the bills. But I say to the women of the past, if they didn't work in traditional jobs, they still did a lot of labor work because we went from an agrarian culture to the industrial age. And those women still, the ones that were home, they didn't have the modern conveniences of microwaves. They had to wash their clothes with their hands. They had to use like a tub or more or less a wash machine where they had to manually put the clothes through the wringer. And those women didn't complain about it because they were conditioned to serve their men. There are women in African countries that still get up early in the morning to cook their family a meal because they take great pride. But here's the kicker, Mr. Charles. Many times we don't say a man is being a slave because he's expected to give his life at any point. We don't say that a man is a slave when he more or less, when the car breaks down along the road and he's going to fix it and get dirty. We don't say that a man is a slave when he opened the doors. We don't say that a man is a slave when he worked his body to the bone trying to provide for his family. We almost have a very dichotomous worldview when it comes to the exoneration of the woman at the behest of the man. In many countries, you know, the Bible said that the Sarah called Ibrahim, she called him Lord. She worshiped her man. She saw her man as, like Sweet Little Bean say, almost like God-like. And so in those cultures, the men are exonerated. Now, listen, we're not saying that sometimes men didn't abuse power. I'm not saying that some men were not complicit in the abuse of power. But we always associated masculinity with something bad and negative. When we think about it, the things that every woman and man benefit from, men created it. Men created the infrastructure for women and men to have some of the niceties or the intricacies of the world, like internet, buildings. Men created these platforms. But we always tend to minimize and associate anything with masculine as bad, where women of other countries actually love serving their men, honoring their men, and doing what's necessary to keep a man. But we don't value men. That's why my platform is dedicated to the empowerment of men and to minimize a lot of the unconscious and conscious pathologies that are reducing their functioning as men in America. And so as a young man like yourself, you deserve better. If you can't find your uncovered gem here, I admire you and I admonish you to go abroad. I admonish you to do what's best for you because Africa is a continent with many countries. There are plenty of African women that would love to be with a brother like yourself. There are plenty of Afro-Latin women that would love to be with a man like you. I'm talking about women that many times they're not 9s or 10s per se, but they're better than average, and they just take care of their man. But sadly, many men that travel sometimes mess up the ecosystem because they are simps. And they mess the ecosystem up because they give these women more instead of making these women earn. So, you know, it's unfortunate, but there's a lot of unconscious pathologies in our community that needs to be addressed. And it first starts with the mind as it relates to male empowerment, something I'm trying to do, because so many of our young men are selling for less because so many of our young women think that they're better than the average men that they actually decry because they want men that they themselves are not worthy of actually having. Delano Music, you've been quiet, brother. But before you speak, Rain on the Roof, guys, I want you guys to answer this question for this young lady. She said, if American women were still traditional submissive like we're supposed to be, would men prefer that or would you still prefer going abroad for the exotic aspect of it? Chris, what's your take on that? And then we'll go with Yaziz and also Delano Music. What's your take on it, Chris?
I mean, if we're fifth, we all be drunk. I mean, how can, you're trying to create a scenario where our reaction to what is going on with the culture is more or less to travel overseas for better opportunities. So we've identified many times that the issue is the culture. I feel like she's trying to run this argument because she made a focus on exotic. So she's basically trying to say, are y'all focused on how these women appear? sis, you need to understand that we can go from where we are to a whole completely different country and visually find sisters who look very similar to what is in the States. It's not predicated on looks, because this kind of runs down that argument of, oh, y'all just want to chase white women or white-ish women. Because, of course, if a brother is going anywhere else, he's going after white women. You know, I mean, because, you know, we can't, as many times as we said that we don't have issues with how y'all can look at your best, you know, when you're in shape, very attractive, very fit, also very feminine. We've said it many times before that that's not an issue. Literally, that's what a lot of brothers are looking for. So they try to run that narrative. I mean, it's just, to me, it's just a little like, well, more or less, yeah, but you know what I mean? Some brothers are gonna go with and do what they want to do regardless. If I have the option to date out, or if I have the option to go overseas, would I still do it? More than likely, yeah. Let's just say that everything is perfect here in the States. Would I still travel? Yeah.
Right.
Because it's not all about women. And that's what another point we keep trying to drive home. It's about expanding your mind, your horizons, your culture, and stuff like that. And your world skills, social skills, you know, getting off your quote unquote block and all that other stuff. So yeah, I would still travel, you know, because there's so many opportunities out there, especially in business. So in a perfect world, or she's trying to create this perfect scenario, I mean, would I still be going overseas? More than likely, just because of you know, I'm into moving around and building in different social constructs as far as like different cultures and communities, because I can move like that. I can't really speak for anybody but me, but would I still be moving around? Of course.
Of course. Yeah, to tie into what Chris just said, I mean, my trips to Europe when I first did that in 2014, it was not for women. I went for DJing. It was a business move. I mean, let's just face the facts. Men are known to travel and to explore. That's just what we do. It's built in our system. And a feminine woman, if women were feminine and submissive in the U.S., it wouldn't make a difference. It wouldn't make a difference. Not at all. Not at all. I'm still gonna travel. I gotta explore. The power of traveling has literally changed my life. I'm able to hold conversations with people that I would have never dreamed of doing.
Right.
After learning Portuguese, I've become so valuable. Jobs will, you know, companies will hire people just for learning new languages, you know.
You fluent?
It makes the world so small too, man. You could just you might have a new best friend just from learning a new language. Man, traveling is great. I encourage everybody to do it.
You fluent in Portuguese? Fala Português, amigo?
No. Well, I'm intermediate. I could read anything, but yeah, eu falo português muito bem.
Fala português muito? Okay.
Yeah, man. I love it, man. I swear, traveling is the best thing you could do. It's the best thing you could do for yourself. I mean, all the advantages I have gotten from traveling. How many people can say, oh, yeah, I've been to Brazil, been to Portugal. I know this, I know that. I have connections here. Now I have a place here. My family's all over the world. Why would you throw away that?
Exactly.
Why?
Exactly, bro. Exactly. And just to touch on what you said, bro, it's like business, you know what I'm saying? Like there's so many business opportunities. My bad, bro, I'll cut you off. But there's so many business opportunities that you have when you start moving and have that mind to move around. Because ladies that are listening, I want y'all to understand something. Women in other countries understand a word called competition. And what you're trying to say is, oh, would there not be any competition for women overseas if we were just so perfect and feminine here? I'm going to tell you what, yes, the competition would still be there. So that means that you still need to be on your A1 when it comes to, hey, I'm still competing against these Brazilians, these Colombians, these Dominicans. Yes, hun, you need to be competing. Like making an excuse to say, oh, well, I'm perfect. I don't need to worry about them girls overseas. Yes, you do. Because even brothers who travel, they still compare girls from Colombia versus girls from Brazil or versus girls from the Dominican. They still, brothers who travel, they still will have, listen, Listen, and the brother Edward Anderson says this: you don't go red pill for women in the States to go blue pill for women in other countries. That means you keep your same standards even if you travel overseas. Therefore, if I'm dealing with a Brazilian, Colombian, and a Dominican, guess what? I'm deciding putting the same standards between all three of them, saying, look here, you mess up, she's up next. She messes up, she's up next, because we're holding the same level of standard. We're not playing these games regardless. And that's the thing. It's called competition between women, period. It's not about playing favorites. And I think that's one thing that she was trying to get to. Are we having favoritism? No, we're having standards. I know it's a new thing for black men to have standards, but this is what it looks like. Go ahead, brother.
Yeah. One thing, and y'all made some very powerful points, and y'all had my mind like a ping pong in different places, but in the gist, right, just riding off of exactly what both of y'all brothers are speaking on. As a black man from America, we come from a slave, let me not even say slave, we come from a captive culture. And when you come from a captive culture, in the way that we were broken as a people, the woman was made to be more dominant and the man was raised to be protected and back. And so this is the mentality that a lot of black men kind of carry within them, that they're second or tertiary citizen, even to the black woman and then to the white woman or the white race. Right. So in order for me to break, even though I was raised in a cultural community in America, I'm American, right? Went to all the schools in America, all the way up into university. But relationship wise, I approached it from a black American culture of, you got to be finesseful a little bit with the woman. You got to give in a little bit. You got to humble yourself a little bit. You got to kind of be chivalrous, which means that as a man, you think, hey, I'm not going to let the woman cook all the time. I'm going to show her that I can also cook. I'm going to show her that I can clean the house up and clean the clothes. You come with this mentality thinking, oh, this is how you're going to fix the problem of their complaints of the men of the past. But what happens that in doing that, you throw yourself and you throw that woman out of cycle. You know, it's like you placing the moon, or you placing the earth in the position of the sun, and you placing the sun in the position of the earth, right? That throws everything out of cycle and throw everything out of balance. So when I traveled, right, and I traveled only because I speak Arabic fluently, I speak a little Hebrew, and I traveled based on the fact that spirituality and the fact that I had an opportunity. So when I first went into Palestine and Israel, and I started going into Senegal, then I went to Southern Africa, I noticed something that was different. It wasn't about the women that were different. It was about the culture of the people. Manhood was expressed differently, right, but the same in all of those places, in the way that men reacted to women and the way that women reacted to men. And I said, well, I got something wrong here. You understand where I'm coming? Because the way we react as men, what you call simping, is very unattractive in traditional lands. It's very unattractive. Right. It shows weakness. Mm-hmm. It shows weakness, and women do not desire that. The women actually desire, see, men are always expected to be traditional, which means that traditional and modernity, they clash. So if a woman is modern and a man is expected to be traditional, that's going to create a clash. You understand where I'm coming from? So when a man who is expected to be traditional goes into environments that are traditional, then all of a sudden that becomes appealing, because it's almost like it's actually an attraction. It's like a key to a lock. It unlocks certain things. So when I began to travel and I saw how Nigerian men were, I saw how Zimbabwean men were, Botswana men, South African men, Palestinian, Senegalese men, I started saying, man, in America, our manhood is posturing. Mm-hmm. It's posturing. It's showing up. It's wearing a clothes a certain type of way. It's carrying a certain type of attitude that we think is a bad boy. It's posturing. When you go into those other lands, manhood is not posturing. It's a culture. Manhood is a culture. Men are initiated. And so in that respect, when I learned to become a man, that's when I became more attractive to other women. I even became more attractive to American women. But I already learned that my ways as a man now, even if I'm more attractive to an American woman now, it's not going to fit. It's going to clash. It's going to be a lot of fighting. So I only match with traditional women now. I cannot date an American woman because it doesn't fit. That's
Right,
going to create
right.
toxicity in our
Right,
household.
right.
It sounds like that problem that I had back in
Right.
high school.
Right.
That's
Guys,
why I
hold tight. Guys, hold tight real quick. Guys, if you have not donated, please donate. I'm going to run an ad real quick. But if you have not donated, guys, donate, hit the Cash App. And we're going to finish this conversation. But I want to run this ad for mental health awareness. Give me a minute, guys.
Are you a victim of brokenness and despair? A broken man is a hopeless man. And a hopeless man is a very dangerous man. Many times, many of you young men that are listening come from homes that are very toxic and very dysfunctional. And because of that, many of you have deferred your power in many ways to the point it's led over into your social life and many times led over into your relationships. If you guys are dealing with mental health pathologies, conscious and unconscious, come see me at kosherclinician@gmail.com. That's kosherclinician@gmail.com. It's important that you deal with your mental health in order to be a better person for yourself, your loved ones, and also your community. But because mental health is often stigmatized, many of you often suffer in silence. Don't be a victim in silence. And see me once again at kosherclinician@gmail.com. And I need you guys to remember this. If it ain't 7, it ain't kosher. If it ain't kosher, it ain't right. There are 7 steps that a man must go through in order to become an optimized male. And male mental health is one of those elements that's paramount to the functioning of a man. Be well.
All right, guys, we're back. Please donate to the channel. We're going to sign off in a few minutes as we're talking about Wim Glasser, Zoom to Thailand. Guys, share this content if you don't have any money. But guys, this is a good stream. As I said, this show took me about 5 hours to put together. These shows are very time consuming. I'm going to start a Patreon at some point. So to the ones that are not Patreons, you won't be getting certain perks of the Kosher Clinician. But I want to continue to empower as many young men and women as I can, as long as they are listening. But please donate to the channel, guys, as these shows are time consuming. Don't want to sound like I'm begging, because I'm not. But if you like what I'm doing, please donate to the show. Let's get this channel growing. If you don't have money, just share the content. I'm happy with sharing because that means more to me sometimes than the money itself. So share the content, subscribe to the channel, hit the Cash App, hit the share button. But you guys said something that's very powerful. And we talked about being masculine at all times. And you're right, Delano Music. It's a cultural thing, Chris and Delano. It's a cultural thing because in those cultures, they have what's called a patriarchy. Sweet little bit, let me ask you a question because this show is very important. This show is very powerful. But let me ask you a question. You're from South Africa. You're from the Hoysian people, where the men actually exude power and they demand respect. What are some of the things that you see in the mental health of men from the Hoysian culture versus America and Europe?
Here there is a lot of what's that word? You can't say things directly. It's almost like people are waiting to be insulted. You know, people get very insulted very easily. You can't speak directly. You have to be politically correct. Right. Whereas where I come from, you know, I often hear, you know, insult people, and I'm just asking, you know. So I think that side, there's a directness, you know. Men are men, you know. A person's gonna ask you, what are you saying? You can't just talk anyhow to anybody. And because there's culture, there's a specific way you speak to a man of a certain age. Like within my culture, I can't talk to you anyhow. Me having this conversation with you in this way, it's very casual. Mm-hmm. So in where I come from, age means something. You're automatically seen and accepted as wisdom, and it comes with a status. Ubaba mkhulu, which in your language it would mean the big man. Mm-hmm. Kulu is God, but it would mean, the big man, the head of the house. So you actually have a title. You're not just a man. Do you get what I'm trying to say?
Yes.
And
yes.
when you're a young woman, you by your title, you're a young lady. And also, there's a lot of initiations as well. I think, Yazid, you've been to Zimbabwe. You've seen Zimbabwean initiations, right?
Yes, I have.
And then I think you also went to Swaziland as well. Do you want to tell them what they teach women in the Zimbabwean initiation?
Yeah, I know one thing that they have what they call kitchen parties. They actually prepare women how to satisfy men, only because sex, like in America, women expect men to be sexual professionals. In the continent, the sex belongs in the realm of the woman. She has to know how to perform. She's given different body parts to display to the man, and have to know how to move it a certain kind of way for the man. Because remember, if you cannot cause a man's nature to rise, he can't produce legacies through you.
That's powerful.
So your sexuality has to be powerful. The man's sexuality doesn't have to be powerful, because if the woman cannot bring out the man's attraction, he's not going to get an erection. The phallus symbol was always worshipped, and they know that even in the ancient cultures. Sexuality, so passion. Let me just drop this real quick, Coach. And I don't want to be too long, and I want to be too philosophical.
Go ahead, brother.
Even if you go into the ancient Greek culture and you deal with Ares, which is in Rome is Mars, right?
Right.
They call him the god. They call him the god of war, but
God
the word
of war,
wasn't
right?
War. It was actually he was a god of male passion, right? And then Aphrodite, the root of the word aphrodisiac, she was the goddess of sex, fertility.
Right.
So male passion had to connect with sex, which was Aphrodite, to produce eros, which is the root of the word erotic, which means unhinged sexual desire. And then that would actually translate and go to Cupid, which means you shot with the arrow. But if you remove the sex, male passion becomes war.
Right.
So sexuality always belonged in the realm of the woman. She had to be proficient. And so when you go to Zimbabwe, women are taught, hey, listen, this is what you got to do to keep your man. The older ladies will show them all of the moves, and then they go to this thing called chinamwari. And if a woman ever put chinamwari on you, you're not coming back nowhere. You're not going nowhere. You're not going nowhere. They teach chinamwari.
What does that mean? What does that mean, Aziz?
I don't know exactly what it means, but it's a move that they do when they sit on top of the penis, and they know how to use that inner muscle, right? And when it's the way that they gyrate and utilize the inner muscle all the way together to automatically makes a guy come, and it's intensified, and they teach them that because that's like, and then, they got other things that they do. They did what they call it muti, which is like roots. If that doesn't work after that, it's like you got to get the ancestors, you got to get the elders to come together. But but they teach kitchen parties, and they do initiations with women to teach them sexuality, of how to use sexuality for a man. That's all that utilizing sexuality is feminism. It's feminine. It's feminine, and it's
feminine,
actually women. Yeah, and it's actually woman culture.
Right.
We got it all twisted because we as men think that we have to be the sexual professionals here in America.
In America, right.
Yes. When it's actually the other way around. We're just supposed to be the workers. We're supposed to be the providers. We're supposed to be the men of purpose.
Right.
Same thing with Swaziland. The women, if you ever go to the Reed Festival, I've been to the Reed Festival, you see thousands of women walking around nude with just a skirt on. You see different variations of breasts. You during that season, you see car accidents take place all the time because somebody's looking, they staring, and boom, they hit another vehicle. But that's also a part of femininity. It's also because that has everything to do with life. That has everything to do with fertility and progenation.
Right.
That's the thing that we've actually lost. It's a lot of things that I can go deeper on.
No, I know where you're going, brother. Right. You're talking about a culture where patriarchy and male order is respected. Men here are goofballs. They drag their knuckles. They don't know what their worth is. And my job is to empower men through schema modification, through cognitive restructuring, through some of the contemporary theorists like Wim Glasser, to let men know that they have choices and they don't have to rely on the relics of the past and they can get the outcomes they want if they're willing to remodify those negative thoughts that have reduced their efficacy long term. But in the meantime, I want to send a special thanks to my man Top Gun for the $5 super chat. He said, great dialogue. Rain 10, none of these brothers mentioned exotic and uplifting experiences abroad. And I think Rain on the 10 roof, she might mean well, I guess. But every man that travel abroad is not traveling abroad for exotic women. They're just traveling for good women that's going to love them and respect them. Shout out to my dear friend, Security Boss. Thank you, love, for the $10 super chat. She is showing love. I love Security Boss. We're going to do another show soon. And then also shout out to Dante for the $10 super chat. Shout out to Michael Green for the $5 cash out. And XL Pro for the $5 cash out. I really appreciate what you guys are doing. To the content creators, Chris is one just like me. Chris will tell you that these shows are very time consuming. Guys, I love you guys so much. Like I told you, it took 5 hours to do this show today, literally 5 hours with the research, putting everything together with the new intro. It's time consuming. Oh my God. But it's just the beginning. I got a lot of things in store for empowering the brotherhood and also changing some of the negative thoughts that you guys are having. But like Yaziz, what you talked about, brother, is very, 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 very powerful. We're going to sign off in a minute, but starting with Sweet Lulu Bean, if a man decided to come to your culture, and you may more or less talked about it, what kind of woman can he get if he paid a dowry? You talked about it on the Lead Attorney show. We've talked about it in the past, but to the young people that are listening, what can a man get if he's willing to pay a dowry in your country in South Africa, Sweet Lulu Bean?
I guess it's a person that knows what their role is and is comfortable with their role. What the Haitian brother said really resonated with me, because I told you about my husband's experience when he went to Zimbabwe. Mm-hmm. And he saw a woman bending down. Like in the vendor culture of Zimbabwe, when you present a man with food, you bend down. It's not a sign of subservience. It's a sign of respect. And I feel like going to South Africa first, or going to Africa first, don't necessarily go there to meet a woman. Just go there and find yourself.
Right.
Go there and see Nicki Minaj in real life. I told you the one thing about my tribe is that everybody and their mother has a bum. Figures are nothing. I told you guys don't even really care about that, because there's so many of us.
There's so many, right.
But like what Aziz was saying is go and what the other brother was saying is go find yourself. Go explore. I have learned a lot from traveling here in America. And I've also been schooled myself. And he was right when he was saying traveling opens your eyes. And maybe, Kosha, at some point you're going to have to start taking women over there and taking women to show over there you get initiated as a man, you get initiated as a woman. So you are taught what your role is. You are taught how to respect each other. You're told how to treat a woman. You're told how to treat a man. So you get what I'm trying to say? I think maybe that's also another idea. Women also have to start traveling to countries where they're traditional women, so that they can also re-educate and re-acclimatize themselves and try and see things differently, because it's been perverted this side.
Right. They would definitely be traumatized when they travel abroad and see how the men actually treat them. Chris is laughing because Chris was in Brazil with me a couple of months ago. And I promise you, when you travel to those cultures, the men there don't play. There's so much beauty density in Brazil that a woman that's an 8 or 9 in America is probably a 6. And she's mostly ignored in Brazil. Would you agree with that, Chris?
Man, do we really want to get into that right now? I mean, goodness gracious. I mean, I'm just trying to tell you, down to Brazil, and I'm just like, okay, if you want, you know what I mean? Like, I mean, if you're going down there just to scope out what brothers are doing, because we see that too, it's just kind of like, I recommend you don't do that. Because you're going to feel something that what we have on the adverse of that, we have these brothers who are called these lames and all this other stuff. What you're going to see is the opposite end of that. You know what I mean? You're going to see where your black men that you have in the States are being somewhat, cherished and held up in a higher regard than what you're used to seeing. So it's gonna make you feel some type of ways. And I mean, to go down there and teach them culture, you know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, I guess if culture wants to do that, you know what I'm saying? I guess, but I mean, me personally, I ain't teaching you nothing.
It won't work.
What it is.
You
I'm
can't
saying,
teach
like,
the culture down there.
you know what I'm saying? Because that's the thing. Like, we've been doing that. You know what I'm saying? We've been trying. You know, to reason. You know, with y'all for generations. But the thing is, the majority, not you yourself, Lulu Bean, but I'm saying like those who have this persona about themselves that they don't need no man and stuff like that. The thing is this: men have been trying for so long to finally work something out where it's gonna be, you know, we can just come together in the guise of black unity and black love and all this. And the thing is that as the millennials and zillennials and some of the Gen Xers, like especially me myself being a millennial, we've seen the writing on the wall. It's no more talk for most of us, especially with the young zillennials. They're not even having a conversation. Some of us millennials, we're here and just basically showing that there is more guidance, there's more options, there's more things you can do. You know what I'm saying? Because you don't have to suffer in silence, like the brother Kosher says. But the thing is, we're not in the business of evangelizing black women. Y'all must do this. Oh, no, we're not doing that. I'm not. No, sir. Because we're letting you know SYSBM is in full effect. And men who understand the value of their passport and the value of themselves are taking their talents to different places. So either it's like you understand, ladies, y'all are watching your men do certain things. That should trigger in your mind, hey, you know what? Let me go ahead and start hitting this gym. Let me go ahead and start saying, you know what? I do need a man. Let me go ahead and start saying, maybe I will put this burger down. Maybe I won't fry my chicken today. Maybe I will understand the value of having salad for lunch and drinking water instead of soda, green tea, and Popeye's chicken all the time. You know what I mean? Maybe you'll understand when we try to tell you that if you're weighing 160, 170, 180, 190, and 200 pounds, and you only 5'7", that is an issue. Maybe you'll start listening because when we say it to you, you don't hear it. But when we start voting with our feet, now you want to complain. And at that point, it's damn near too late for the majority of you. That's why we're saying it's time out for playing. You want to sit here and not once again, not you, Mr. Lubin, not you. But I'm saying there are some who want to sit here and try to complain. And this is why we have to deal with the detractors and the white knights who defend them. Which is like the biggest issue is really the white knight simps who are in between. See, this is the thing, like ladies. The men that y'all say are the select dudes who are talking to y'all, who are defending y'all, that is really the biggest issue as far as men being on one accord. So instead of having to go to war, like we saw a good example on FNF when that brother, when Myron said, hey, you need to chill, or you finna go, and what happened? The simp in the corner said, nah, she good. That's what happened. You see, that's what we have to deal with. Because ladies, y'all just sit back and just sit there and just be like, oh, they're fighting. Men, there is always a low level of aggression between men. We understand it'll pop off between men. But the white knight simps who defend these women in their bad behavior is the biggest proposition. And so instead of fighting every man who has so much to say about brothers who are trying to reason with women because a white knight simps will jump in between and get in the fray and disrupt it, we'll say fine. We'll say fine. Pookie Ray, the select dudes that y'all want to say is the top dudes, and they got all these different baby mamas, and y'all just have fine. Y'all won, bruh. You won. You won the hood. You won the block. You won the streets. You know what I'm saying? You got the swag. You got the juice. You won, bro. You won. Like, ain't nobody even fighting you over. You can have all the Keishas and all her baby daddies and kids. You got it, bro.
Chris.
It's all you. And we taking our talents to South Beach, bro. We out of here.
Chris, hold tight, brother. Hold tight. I'm gonna let you cook in a minute. Give me a minute, Chris. Shout out to my man, Eric, ready to work for the $20 1822 Super Stick. He's at Eric in Charlotte, North Carolina. First time super chat, and this is eye-opening. Yes, I will book a session with you, sir. Thank you for the panelists as well. No doubt, brother. Much love and blessings. And shout out to my man, James Turner. I love that brother. That brother always holds me up. James Turner said for the $50 super chat. He said, Kosher, I'm just catching the tail end of the shows. I'm still at work. From what I've been hearing thus far, you guys are cooking. Keep it up. No doubt, man. That's what it's all about. It's about male empowerment, empowering one brother at a time. That's why we do these shows. We're going to do a Psychic Soul Train before we sign off, but I want to ask the panelists a couple of questions before we sign off. I told you guys that William Glasser talked about the 5 elements of choice theory. The top 5 elements were survival, love and belonging, freedom, fun, and power. Start with Chris Strongheart in less than 2 minutes. Which one is more important to you?
Did you say freedom?
Yeah, that's one of them.
That's the most important.
All right.
Freedom
Tell
is
me
most
why.
important.
Tell me why in less than
Because
2 minutes. Tell me why.
Freedom leads you down the avenue of having your own choice. Freedom leads you down the avenue of having your own creative mind. Freedom is what allows you to break away from the mindset of the gynocracy, or what some people call the matrix as we see it in the States. Freedom is what allows you to get off the plantation so you can make better moves. Freedom is what allows you to value yourself as a man so that you have the wherewithal to say, hey, this is where I want to go in life. This is what I want to have in life, because I understand that I am a free agent. I'm not beholden to the understanding and the underpinnings and the mindset of the gynocracy. Nobody is going to tell me what to do and how to move. And just because I'm holding on to guilt, because for most brothers, it's about guilt. Oh, right. I'm listening to the shaming language that these women are putting on me, telling me, oh, that, well, she ain't black. Your kids ain't going to be black. Your mama black. Your sister black. Check it out. I'm not trying to date my mama and my sister. So what are you even talking about in that regard? Oh, your kids ain't gonna be black. What do you mean? Listen, if a man has a seed with a woman, guess what? That child will be black. Okay. I'm tired of hearing that nonsense about, oh, your kids ain't gonna be black. Your kids ain't gonna look like you. And the problem is, like I said, it's not so much the women that we have to deal with. It's really the dudes who defend the nonsense. So once again, freedom allows you to get over all the nonsense, the talking points, the shaming language, and it frees that last shackle that they said that never broke from most slaves, which was the mental shackle. So freedom is the key.
No doubt. I want to ask Yaziz, between survival, love, and belonging, freedom, fun, and power, which one means the most to you as it relates to Wim Glasser's choice theory? Which one means the most?
When you say the Wim Glasser's choice theory, what is the Wim Glasser's choice theory? If you can expound on that real quick.
Well, basically what Wim Glasser was saying, that those core elements, survival, love, belonging, freedom, fun, and power, is that behaviors are based on an unconscious motivation. And because of that, you have the power to choose whether or not to make bad decisions. Glasser's main contemporary points of view was that needs drive behaviors. And when those needs are not being satiated, then those behaviors can be very maladaptive. So what I'm asking is this: between those 5 elements, survival, love and belonging, fun, power, and freedom, which one means the most to you as a man?
I would say I would take power, because that's the thing that we're lacking the most, because that's what's been taken away from us through this entire process has been power. And power deals with the ability to do something or act in a particular way, you know, especially as a quality. And this is what Black men are actually, this is what we gave up. We gave up power. Our culture and the way that we are in America, we gave a power to feminism. We gave a power to these ideas, and we made ourselves appear to be weak. And like you said, that white knight, that's the person that gives up power. When we travel abroad, when we learn about what our manhood is and who we are, we actually gain that power back. And power is the only thing that can be respected, and that's the only thing that demands exactly what it wants. You know, it's the ability to direct influence, and it influences the behaviors of other people. So if we get power, we can actually influence other people's behavior, and that's the only thing that's even respected by women. Even with dealing with hypergamy, they only respect status, and that status it involves having power. So I think power is very important to me.
No doubt, no doubt. Mr. Charles, which one is more important to you, brother?
With me, I'm gonna say love. Black men need to love themselves enough to protect themselves at all time. When I look at how what then changed from back in my younger years to now, a lot then changed. So what Black men need to understand is that you need to change with the game. You cannot keep trying to play a triangle offense in a small ball league. So I would say love, protect yourself at all times. One last point: Black men are not trying to divest from Black women. This is why the SYSBM is a result from women wanting to divest from black women wanting to divest from black men. So I encourage brothers to follow the culture condition and to do what's in best interest for you. Get your passport. Don't hold yourself to the American matrix, and try to enjoy life and not let a lot of the situations in the American matrix hold you back.
No doubt. Was that Delano music? Delano music between the five. Which one matters the most to you between survival, love, belonging, freedom, fun, and power? Delano music. Which one matters the most to you, brother?
Without a doubt, freedom is because of what my parents have instilled into me since a young age. I've been a traveler all my life, and that represents my freedom. I love to travel. I love to explore, and I love to have the freedom of choice to do what I want. And I really don't care what anybody thinks of me about going to a different country, possibly dating someone else. That's my choice. I have the freedom of choice.
Yes.
That's important to me.
Yes.
I don't care what anybody thinks. And I just want to make a quick side note. Maybe this will jog something into a woman's head. But I feel as though there's a lot of great women in the U.S., but I feel as though they've been pressured to be fearful of being submissive to a man.
Right.
I truly believe a submissive woman everyone's looking for a high value male. The right submissive woman for a man will make that male into a high value male. Think about that. Think about that. And I truly do love this community. I mean, as a Jamaican immigrant, I had a really hard time connecting with a lot of Black Americans just because my culture was different. I just didn't understand what was going on in everyone else's culture.
Right.
So the fact that me traveling and running into Charles Tyler online, I'm like, oh my God, there's other Black men traveling like that. I found something. I found a brotherhood. That I truly love, man. It's I hold it dearly to me. So I respect everyone in this manosphere, and respect to all of you, man.
Sweet Lulu Bean, I know you're a lady, but if you could pick one, which one would you choose as it relates to power, as it relates to choice theory? Because you're a married woman, you're an awesome woman. But if you were a man, and you're not, but as a woman, which one would you choose, dear?
Power.
Tell me why.
I guess as a woman, women respect power, even if they don't know it. And in order for a man, from what I have seen, to be in his role, for a man to overcome financial difficulties, for a man to overcome divorce, breakup, whatever comes at him, he has to have a sense of power in order for him to withstand. And I also, Chris, I hope, is it Chris?
Yeah.
Yeah. Going back to power is having a child with let's say with a woman who's non-Black. In this day and age, I think it's a mistake to think that just because you're a Black man and you've had a child, that child is Black. We have a situation where fewer Black children are being born at this present moment in time. Black children are being aborted at a high rate.
I disagree, but
So,
sorry.
well, okay, we can disagree, but there's one thing that I feel like Black men have to understand, which is legacy. Is you're not just having this. It's not just about you meeting this woman and loving this woman and then just having this child. We have to stop thinking momentarily, and we have to stop thinking of a feeling. The thing about a man, from what I have seen, is you want to instill your values, you want longevity, you want to make sure that your son is a better vision of who you are, and you should want to see yourself reflected in that. And I have mixed race people in my family, and it can be, there's miscegenation. As soon as that child has a child with Kim Kardashian and Kanye, as soon as their child has a child with a white, it goes back to white again. Italians, Spaniards, they've all got black. They've all got bits of black in them. But look at them; they don't look like us. They don't have our values. So you need to start thinking about genetics differently. Black is just not a race. It's a state of mind. It's a history. It's about spirituality, and I don't think that Black people see themselves in see themselves and understand who we really are as a people. That's why it's easy for people to say, I can have a child with whoever I want, the one drops. That's not true. We need a culture. We need traditions, and the only way that we're going to have that is if we give birth to those principles and we instill them in the next generation. You have Eartha Kitt. Let me just give you just one more and then I'll keep quiet. You have Eartha Kitt, a Black woman, a Black actress with a body of work. But what does it mean now? Her child is white and has a white man. We can't claim Eartha Kitt anymore. We can't claim that history anymore. And now her legacy be white now. Her grandchildren and everybody else are going to be talking about this ancestor called Eartha Kitt. But that money, that talent is not going to come back. Whereas you see a LeBron and you see his children and you can see a legacy. You can see LeBron's future. You can see LeBron's past in that child. I don't know if I'm making sense, guys. I don't know if
Mami, the Queen of England, of England's great grandmother was Queen Charlotte of Mecklenburg, who was a Black woman. She was actually mixed, but it miscegenated. But now you don't even see the power structure of England as being Black anymore, when the history was always Black due to miscegenation. That's a very powerful point.
It depends on the demographic. It depends on social politics. There's a myriad of issues. But Chris, go ahead. I think you wanted to say something. Go ahead, Chris.
So what are these values that you're speaking on that are not going to get passed through the understanding if my child is mixed? Now, one, you're assuming that child would not deal with someone who's melanated. I mean, the assumption that they're just going to deal with somebody who's white, I mean, still, our genes are quite strong. So it would still take more than just being half. And then if you go again, there'll still be some features in there. You could be like, this child may be mixed. There's still some things in there. So you're talking about, on one hand, I hear you talking about features and say, oh, you won't be able to see the tradition in the child. But then again, before you speak to this person, you don't know what they're on. So to say that they're not going to be a certain way mentally, to me, I don't understand that. And then, like, you're trying to draw the dots to make it sound like that there's. Well, my question is this: what about Black American culture as it is today that is so sacred that needs to be, I guess, instilled in this child, that if he was mixed or mixed, that it would make a difference?
Well, let me say this. I'll say this. Many, and I think I know where Lulu's going at, but I see where Chris is going at as well. I think you both got very, very good points. Many morenas, even in their contextual culture, even though they might have an act mixture, many times they're still seen as, I'm Black. Am I right or wrong in Brazil?
Yes.
Am I right or wrong, Chris?
Yeah,
and so I see where Lulu is going at. She's talking about the culture being diluted, and it's a possibility that they may. But yeah, it's very confabulated. It can be it's very nuanced. But I think you both are saying the right thing just in different ways. I think what Chris is saying is that if the father is Black through progenation, then the child is going to be Black, especially if the man is a dark-skinned man. Many power cultures and structures, if the man is dark-skinned, the child has an admixture, and it can vary. Many times they see that child as a Black child, even though it's obvious that they have some, European blood or indigenous blood. But I think what Lulu Bean is saying is that you can't always go by, the one drop rule, or if the father's black. She's probably looking from a purist perspective. Chris is looking from a C perspective. I think both of you guys, what you guys are saying, adds a lot of clarity and value, but I think it's just in different ways. But who was the guy? Somebody was about to say something. I don't know.
Coach, I was going to say something. Yeah, I was going to say something that the one drop rule of black had everything to do with the racist structure of America after slavery.
Right.
But the rest of the world, like if you go from Cape Coast and go all the way up to the top of Africa, even when you deal with the Arab nation, the moment that the mixture happened, let's say for instance in South Africa and Zimbabwe, the moment that mixture happened, those mixture of people never went back white nor went back African or black. They maintained that with themselves and they became known as colors.
Oh, I see. Right.
Character, everything. This is in a lot of nations of Africa.
Right.
There's something that is lost there.
Right.
See them, you won't even see, even in spirit, you won't even see blackness.
Right.
It's
I
lost.
see. Right. I see, and it makes sense now. Lulu Bean is coming from it based on what you're saying, Aziz, from the South African perspective. So Lulu Bean is right from their perspective, but Chris is right from the American perspective.
Yes.
Right. So you have what's called two contrasting variables. So you both are right based on your cultural context. And that's why I say Lulu Bean, Chris, that's why it seems like there's a difference, but it makes sense now. Aziz, thank you for explaining that, because it makes a lot of sense. Lulu Bean is saying once that person have white blood, they begin to dilute the blackness of their past, and it's lost in the shallows of the past, and they no longer maintain or retain their African roots. What Chris is saying that is in America, in the American culture, if they have black blood, they tend to more or less hold on to it some, and they tend to marry people that look like them. So I see your point. You both of you guys are correct, but just in a different perspective. So that makes a lot of sense. Thanks, Aziz. Yeah, go ahead, brother. Real quick.
He's saying, okay, this is the thing. He said it twice. Okay, so the thing is that everything that we are today did not just come from slavery. We're way more than just being slaves. First of all, we have a very rich history in this country way before slavery. So the result of things of how they are is not just tied into us coming from slavery. It's much deeper than that. We have ancestral roots in these lands right here way before any quote unquote European white man stepped foot on this so-called North and South America, just so we can have that clear. Okay, so that's not. I'm not coming from a point of trying to say, oh, it's just everything that was post slavery, because we have much history goes in listen, we existed before the 1500s. Our only excuse to be in America is not because the gracious white man brought us over here on these boats that we can't even prove existed. So first of all, that's not where I'm coming from. My thing is this. She said the spiritual essence of stuff like this. These are ethereal things. Okay.
No, they're not.
But listen, this is my thing. You're saying the spiritual essence of the child is somehow different and stuff like that. Listen,
you asked me a question.
You can't quantify. Just let me finish. You can't quantify that. That's my point. You can't quantify because, now they're only 1/3 spiritual because they're mixed. You know what I mean? It's just like now, see, because we're getting into things that are just way more.
That's another show.
You know what I'm saying? That's what I'm saying. So the thing is that as I'm speaking, because I understand y'all are coming from Africa. Y'all coming from an African perspective. I got it. We have different values and beliefs as we come from different parts of the diaspora. So my thing is, as it pertains, because listen, y'all come from a place of having this rich culture and stuff like that. So I do understand, but coming from America, we have a toxic culture. So when you're talking about these things that we need to cherish and hand down to our children, what are you talking about? What? Right. What is it that is so vital in Black America as it is today that we have to keep it? Oh, you better be with a Black woman. That seed better be black to pass down what? Teaching my daughter how to twerk? What do you know? No. I'm going to go.
That's not all that African Americans are.
Yeah, that's only 20 years. That's only 20 years.
You don't know your history.
But
that's
20 years.
That African Americans are is twerking.
Yeah, that's not 100 years of us. That's only 20 years.
But listen though. What I'm trying to get at is this. I understand that we have a much richer history than that. True.
You don't understand how rich it is because you don't
I
even
do
know what there
understand
is
how
to
rich it is
save.
because I've already mentioned how we go before slavery. I cannot speak on
You
things
can't even
before
tell me where your
slavery
lands are.
if
You got
if
lands that have been
listen.
taken over by
I
white
cannot.
people. You people are trying to fight to get that land back. You have
Listen.
cultures and you have your own tribes that you can't name. You have your own languages in this country that you can't name.
In this country, are you
There's a
talking about in
history that
America?
you have that's not known to you.
In America, are you talking about America? Or are you talking about Africa?
Talking about America.
Okay, listen. I have an understanding. Of the richness of our tribal affiliations in this country before Africa. I'm not saying that we're not from Africa. I'm saying that we are connected to Africa, but it's from a much older lineage.
I'm not talking about it from an African perspective, Chris.
I understand.
I'm
Then
talking
saying
about America only. What? Okay.
Right.
I come from it.
Right.
All right. Like I don't know. Maybe Aziz said it comes from.
I know what you and Chris are saying. That we don't want to get veer too much off topic, but I know what you and Chris both are saying. Chris is talking about the essence of the African gene goes back pre the slave ship. He's saying it's advanced. But what Lulu Bean is saying, even though that could be true, and that is true, when it comes down to your basic progeny, you can't name it. So, it's almost like it's oxymoronic to some degree. I know what Chris is saying, that my essence and my worth supersedes the transatlantic slave trade. Lulu Bean saying that might be true, but to point, you still can't name your ancestry based on your bloodlines because of slavery and all of that.
I kind of can, but my question to her is, what am I supposed to be handing down to my child then? That where I cannot mix my child. What is so sacred in Black America today that I can't mix my child? Tell me.
Okay. So, as I was saying to you, the areas right now that are Black ancestrally, that are Black and that are being taken over by whites. You've got gentrification in steeped in Black history that you can't appreciate, and you have a history that you don't know. It's easy for you to give yourself away, to give your progeny away, because you don't because your history as an American, as an American Black, it's been made disposable. That's why you can sit there and you can say that there is nothing about being a Black American that I have to hand down to my child. And I'm saying to you, fine, let's say fine, you believe that there's nothing spiritually, there's nothing historically that you have to hand down. Then I said, look at a LeBron James that is then creating a legacy, creating a school where Black children are being educated, where he's ensuring as a Black man that Black children are getting a good education, that he's ensuring as a Black man that his legacy and his talent is in his son. And maybe one day then his son will take over the NBA, and then the NBA will be owned by Black people. So, but what I'm trying to say is at least he owns himself. He owns his progeny. He owns his legacy. And until you understand what your legacy is and what it can become, then you'll give yourself away and you'll say you've got nothing to give. So you don't understand your own value.
I never said I don't have anything to give. That's not what I said. I said that the mixing of my child isn't going to matter. That's what I'm saying.
Chris, we need time. You need to school me. And then I need to really hear you. Kosha, we need a date with Chris.
Let me explain just quickly. You said LeBron. You said LeBron is showing his children, he's showing everyone that he's a Black man doing everything this, and his children could one day take over the NBA. That's great. So what about LeVar Ball? Can he not do the same thing? Because his children are definitely mixed, and they're definitely in the NBA, and they're definitely good players. So the difference is what?
I think okay, so when they have children, what are those children going to be?
It depends on the
legacy.
We're
talking legacy. We're talking longevity. That's what I'm trying to say. Maybe my idea of legacy and your idea of legacy is different.
It is.
Right. Listen, guys, listen. This has been a good conversation. I love what Lulu and Chris is bringing. I love the passion and the fire. But we're going to sign off in a minute. It's been a great show. I love the passion. I think, and I like, what Chris is saying. I like what Lulu is saying. I think it's just a difference in cultures and perspectives, and that's okay. Chris is very philosophical. Sweet Lulu Bean, the Sagittarian, is very philosophical, and it's fine. We're not going to, lose any sleep over this. It's just a difference in opinion. I know Chris is very passionate. because he's a Cancer. But I had to calm him down because he got that fire in him. He's a crab. But
Fire
Willie D is passionate too. She's
for
a
your
fire.
mind.
So, but real quick, starting with Chris, and it got to be less than 1 minute because my hips are hurting. I'm tired of sitting in this damn chair. In less than 1 minute, Chris, what did you get from the show? Less than 1 minute, and then we're gonna sign off.
Hey man, just a good build as usual. Like I said, it's good for brothers to come with like minds and brothers who may not have like minds, and for us to be able to sit around like Knights at the Round Table and just be able to kick ideas back and forth. Be able to get it out and be able to hear people speak their ideas. Once again, this is why we do this, for the purpose of building, and hopefully there's somebody out there that heard something that they ain't heard before that they can take with them into the future.
No doubt. Mr. Charles, in less than 1 minute, what'd you get from the show? How was it beneficial as it relates to William Glasser and choice theory? Real quick.
Repeat the question one more time.
I said, what did you get from the show in less than 1 minute as it relates to William Glasser and choice theory? Real quick.
Well, what I learned from the show, thanks for being a part of the podcast. What I learned from the show was to, expand your options, to not feel like there's no other avenues that you and other Black men can't access. So that's one thing I wanted to leave with the brothers, is to not put yourself in the box, leave yourself open. Remember, there are 50 shades of Black. There's plenty of Caribbean islands that you can go to, that you can go and find another sister of your liking without as much headache. So I'll leave you with that.
No doubt. Delano Music, what'd you get from the show, brother? How was it beneficial? Real quick.
I got from the show with the choice theory. Everybody has a choice. Exercise it, please. And I just encourage everyone to travel, And what I got from the show, I'm glad that we can all sit down and have a conversation and debate.
Right. Well, we're gonna definitely have another show. I want to, bring Lulu back and Chris. I love their fire and their passion. It's good to have these cogent discussions and not go along to get along. I love it. I love that Chris don't back down. I love that Lulu don't back down. So, and I don't back down. So y'all haven't seen that side yet. But I'm gonna save that fire for your mind for another time. Sweet Lulu Bean, dear, much love and blessings. What'd you get from the show, dear? And tell me, how was the show valuable to your psyche as a woman?
Black men really need to understand, and I keep saying this, Kosher. Black men in America, once they understand what they have to offer, and I see them changing. I see them changing the world. You guys are traveling, and wherever Black American culture, like Chris said, you guys are so powerful that there isn't anywhere in the world where you can go where your culture hasn't touched. And now that the manosphere is growing, and you have a new generation of men and a new generation of mindsets going out there, I think you guys are going to change the world. I've always believed that. I believe in the power and the strength of Black American men.
No doubt. And I think it first starts with self-introspection and also eradicating unconscious motivations. Listen, this has been a great show, guys. We're about to sign off. But I want to thank everyone. I want to thank the panelists. I want to thank everyone that's donated to the channel, donated to the super chats, and also to the cash apps. Guys, continue to share the content as I try to grow. These shows are very time consuming. These 3-hour streams are killing me. I got to cut back on these 3-hour shows, man. God, it's killing me. But because I love the brotherhood, I do what I do. So we're about to sign off, guys. And guys, you have a good night. And and remember this: if it ain't 7, it ain't kosher. If it ain't kosher, it ain't right. We're signing off. Be well.
Bye, everyone.
4 in the morning, you got me up, all cause you need to talk. To 4 in the evening, wanna break up, say that you've had enough. I'm tired of talking, again and again, argue about everything. You are my darling, let's kiss and make up, I know you wanna touch. You call me every night, call me every day, I just wanna get you alone now. Trust me when I say
Who told you that you can rise from the morass of your current situation? Who told you that you had to be a slave to the pain of your past? Who told you that you had to settle for mediocrity in this current culture called America? Who told you that you couldn't change your mind? Talk to me. Now's the time for empowerment. And I'm not the Reverend Knight. I'm the kosher clinician.
addicted to you. All of my attention I've been giving to you. Caught up in my feelings, I got feelings for you. Caught up in my feelings, I got feelings for you. On my mind, I can't lie. On my mind, I can't lie. Pour you down till you dry. Pour you down till you dry. All the time, ease my mind. All the time, ease my mind. I know that you're dangerous, I'm addicted to you. I might rent the Lambo and go drive it like it's stolen. I've been living wild, I'm just going through the motions. Stumbling out the Uber, grab my hand, gave me the notion. Swimming in your water, but it feels just like the ocean. I can't lie, I've really been addicted to you. All of my attention I've been giving to you. Caught up in my feelings, I got feelings for you. Caught up in my feelings, I got feelings for you. On my mind, I can't lie. On my mind, I can't lie. Pour you down till you